Council to order for Thursday, June 25th. If you would rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and if Keyshawn and you and your brother could come and join us and lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate it. We have scouts doing a presentation later this evening, and we're fortunate to have them here with us. By way of announcements, I have a whole sheet of announcements. Upcoming town council meetings, Thursday, July 16th is a regular meeting here in this room at 7 o'clock, and Thursday, August 20th is a regular meeting here in this room at 7 o'clock. Paul, did you have any announcements?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do. Parks and Rec Department invites you to join them on Wednesday nights this summer for the Abbey Griffin Park for free weekly summer concert series. Concerts will run every week from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. from June 24th, last night, to August 12th. Concerts will feature a variety of musical performances, including oldies, swing, rhythm and blues, classic rock music, and more to fill the air. For more information, you can visit the Merrimack Parks and Rec.org website to have more information on the events. On Friday, July 10th, join the Parks and Rec Department at Wasserman Park for their first free movie night of the summer. What better way to enjoy a beautiful night out and relax at Wasserman Park? Enjoy a night with your family and friends. The movie will be Star Wars: The Rise of the Skywalker. The movie will be held on the T-ball field adjacent to the tennis courts. Approximately at 8:30 p.m. will be the start time of the movie. Come one, come all, come out to see the movie. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Any questions of the announcements? Seeing none, we'll move along. Comments from the press and public. At this time, if you'd like to address the council for comments, please come up to the mic. Please maintain your social distancing and let us know what you have on your mind. Seeing nobody, we'll move on.
Can I ask a question? Is this a good time to speak about Courier Road issues, or should we wait until you...
This is the only public comment time. If you want to speak on that, you should come now, yes.
My name's Charles Franks. I live at 33 Courier Road. My wife and I have lived here for 34 years. We're finding it very intimidating having all the traffic in our neighborhood. There are a number of things that go with this. We have to deal with rudeness and aggressive tourists frequently. And I use tourists for want of a better word. I couldn't think of one that was appropriate.
It's a good one.
Thank you.
We find the traffic and parking infringes on our use of our property, access to drives, access to mailboxes, and such like this. And there's a noise problem that goes along with all the traffic that goes along Courier Road at all hours of the day and night. We can either get very loud music from some automobiles, some automobile exhausts, motorcycle exhaust sounds. It's not the quietness that we have had for 33 years. Our home is located at the end of Courier Road. We're the second house from the end. And because of this, we get a lot of the tourists parking in front of our house. In parking in front of our house, they walk on our lawn. I've accustomed myself to the fact that there is a stretch between the curb and my property, that is the city's property, that they can walk on, but that doesn't seem to make any difference. Another issue that is very important to us is the public safety and EMS access along Courier Road. Neighborhood safety, children, pets, pedestrians, due to the excess traffic speed and congestion, is a real problem. And we recognize this because we see how the fire engines, how the ambulances, how the EMS personnel have difficulty getting around the end of the road at Courier Road. And that gets clogged very often. trash from the tourists is becoming an increasing issue, not only on our property, but in the neighborhood and in the Wildcat Falls area. I got tired of picking it up, so I just kind of slacked off, I guess is the word I can use. The traffic in coming to the conservation parking area lot occurs at all hours, and it's especially problematic at night. And at night, it can range from after closing of the Wildcat Falls area until well after midnight. And it used to be in the past that I would call the police department and let them know, but the police couldn't always respond, and so it got to be a problem with me. Why should I waste my time to try to call when nothing was going to happen? And by the time the police would get there, they would be gone anyway. This all leads to our neighborhood security problem, and the current situation puts the Courier Road community at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Chairman, can I ask
Peter?
the gentleman one question?
Sure.
Sir, are you guys, I don't know, are you guys part of Neighborhood Crime Watch with the police department?
No.
You might want to reach out to Community Service or speak with Deputy Chief LeBig and create your own crime watch. I found that in a lot of the neighborhoods too, it's been very helpful.
I had attempted this kind of effort in the past. Because of the response issue, I just gave up. And I'm kind of reluctant to want to start to try it again.
Well, you may want to discuss it with your neighbors.
Also, there's the issue of if we call the police on somebody, who's to say there won't be retaliation against us right there in the neighborhood? I mean, they would know that it would have to be us in the neighborhood who called.
Okay,
So this is a very important security issue for us.
I get it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brenna Hansen, and I live at 3 Courier Road. I've lived at this home for 13 years with my family. If you're not familiar with the neighborhood, there's one way in and one way out. I live up at the top towards the Babusick Lake Road end where it runs perpendicular to Courier Road. Wildcat Falls Conservation Area is down at the opposite end of the road from me. First, I want to make it clear that I'm here tonight not because of a nuisance in my neighborhood. I'm here because of my children and because things have gotten very dangerous in my neighborhood. So I want to make that clear. It's not just annoying at this point. Due to Wildcat Falls parking lot being located in our residential neighborhood, we've seen a marked increase in both volume and speed of traffic over the past 8 years. This past year, it's deteriorated into a very dangerous situation. Cars speed by my house, swerving around children and pets. Signage we've purchased and posted in our yard is ignored or defaced. If we ask drivers to slow down, we're often met with angry hand gestures or swearing. Trash, including cigarette butts, broken glass, diapers, or worse, end up in our front yard or littered throughout the conservation property. My children, who are 10 and 13, on the brink of gaining some independence, have lost just that. They can no longer walk their dog in the neighborhood for fear of being hit by a car. They can't ride bikes because they feel like cars are going to be speeding by them. I can't tell them they can go to their friend's house unless I'm able to walk them from point A to point B, and then that parent can walk them back home. I've personally helped the situation as much as I feel I can. I've put in time picking up trash with my kids, both in my front yard as well as down at Wildcat Falls. Obviously, because of the COVID situation right now, we're not doing that. I also don't know that we could actually carry out that amount of trash that's now there. I've spent money putting up signs in my own yard and purchasing signs for neighbors. I've followed the request of Chief Roy by calling immediately to report criminal behavior. But we as a neighborhood have often felt that we get mixed messages on what exactly can be enforced and what is illegal, so that's really not clear to us. And I understand when, Charlie, you mentioned some frustration in calls. Sometimes I call and I notice the police come right away. Other times it could take 90 minutes to I don't know how long. And I do understand that the police are busy, but it's just really frustrating at this point. I feel like I'm done trying to do as much as I can because it's just not making a difference. So I just feel like it's time to close Wildcat Falls until a permanent solution is in place. And that solution needs to include addressing access to the area from our neighborhood. We need to make Courier Road neighborhood resident parking only. Simply closing the parking lot is just going to force more cars into the neighbors' yards and increase the volume and road rage. Myself and other Merrimack residents I know have been very vocal about these issues for some time. We've been more than patient, but tonight I've run out of patience and I'm asking you to act. I ask you to make my neighborhood safe for me and my 2 children. I'm asking you to protect the other neighbors who live in my neighborhood, many of whom have children and pets who they feel are in danger. I ask you to protect my elderly neighbors who fear confrontation with drivers parking on their front lawns, or an issue I just heard about, somebody urinating on their mailbox in front of an older neighbor who just didn't want to come out and ask them to stop. The Merrimack I know is better than this, and I just expect more from my town. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryn.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wants to address the town council at this time?
Thanks, Charlie and Brenna. My name is Amy, and good evening. Thank you for having me here this evening and the ability to speak in front of you. Again, my name is Amy Simino, and I'm a Merrimack resident. I happen to live on Fir Street, which is one of the streets off Courier Road. And for those that may not know about Courier Road neighborhood, it was established in the late 1950s into early 60s. And it consists of 72 homes along 7 side streets. And as Brenna mentioned, that Courier Road is the only access to the neighborhood, or for the neighborhood, and for Wildcat Falls Conservation parking lot. Courier Road is one of the issues. Obviously, Wildcat Falls Conservation is also the other. I've been starting my concerns back in September of 2019, so this is not just because of COVID. The following presentation I'm going to present to you tonight is a collaborative effort. I want you to know that, and if you find any slides that perhaps provocative, please know that our only intent is to show our neighborhood needs your help. Your support is critical in establishing a pathway to a safe community and protecting Wildcat Falls Conservation Area. And I'd be happy to answer any questions afterwards pertaining to the presentation. And again, thank you for your time this evening.
Okay, but we're not planning to show that right now, right?
Okay.
Because I was going to invite you up for the discussion later on.
Okay.
I'll let you show it then if you feel like that's appropriate. Because this is supposed to be a 3-minute time period so that we can get on with the meeting. And I don't know how long your
It
presentation is.
is just under 5 minutes.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, why don't we keep it till we talk about the Wildcat Falls Conservation Area?
Okay, that's fine with me.
I thought we'd gotten that message out.
All
Okay.
right. My misunderstanding,
No.
but it's ready for you guys when you're ready.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Amy.
Is there anybody else wanting to address the council at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to, we have no resignations, recognitions, or retirements, no appointments. We don't even have a public hearing scheduled for tonight, which gets us through a bunch of these first things. Legislative updates from state reps.
I'm going to lower this because. Hi, it's been
Hi,
a while.
welcome. It has been a while.
First thing, congratulations to Councilor Boyd and Councilor Rothaus on your election wins. Well done to both of you. I'm just going to give you an update on a couple of things since the last time I was here. I organized an effort called Merrimack Mask Sewing in Merrimack. When the Merrimack Mask Sewing effort began, excuse me, masks were not available for the general public. A few dozen people in Merrimack saw the problem, set to work creating fabric masks for our town. At this point, the effort has slowed down now that masks are available for purchase. Here is a breakdown of some of our stats. Some volunteers lent their sewing machines, some cut fabric, donated supplies, and others sewed masks. We had several people 3D print elastic extenders, some that sewed buttons to headbands, and some that made crocheted extenders. These extenders were handed out with the masks and delivered to hospitals, which were very grateful for the deliveries. In April, my daughter Emma Nozell joined in the effort, and she managed the website and the requests for masks and for dropping off of supplies. We had several drive-through mask giveaways, and we provided masks for the town, residents, local businesses, medical providers, local hospitals, nursing homes, home health and hospice, and the United Way, just to name a few. Although it's difficult to count the actual masks that were made, between the masks given away and the kits that were taken, it's a safe estimate that our group made close to 5,000 masks. Hillsborough County. This past week, we passed the Hillsborough County budget this year by way of Zoom. Hillsborough County has a rainy day fund intended for emergencies. COVID-19 is considered an emergency, and therefore the majority of the delegates present voted to dip into the rainy day fund in order to zero out the budget so that there will be no county tax increase this year. UNH Cooperative Extension. I sit on the UNH Cooperative Extension Advisory Council, and I love it. I learn so much, and it's a wonderful organization. Food insecurity is an issue that has been compounded by COVID-19. On the UNH Cooperative Extension website, they have a food map that is updated on a regular basis. This map shows where free or low-cost food is available for those who need it. On the website, they also have a New Hampshire produce map, so that if you're looking for specific fruits or vegetables, you can check the map first to see if they are available. We were warned a few months back that this was going to be a dry summer. We're already seeing it with the water restrictions. There's a lot of information with tips for gardeners and businesses producing produce specific to this summer's conditions on the website. And for parents, the UNH Cooperative website has many links for activities for kids, and it is planning several online classes and activities for the summer. With so many people being out of work and losing income, many people are selling the trees on their lots for timber. The extension is asking people to contact them before you consider a lumber sale. They will come to your property and discuss with you how you can best cut trees down while maintaining the ecological integrity of your property. Lastly, vacations are going to be a little different this year. It looks like we're all going to be staying a little closer to home. The UNH Extension has a big tree map on their website with GPS locations for each species of the biggest tree that have been identified in New Hampshire. Many of these locations are considered short hikes and are easily accessible. This is similar to the geocaching that people did a couple years ago. So they'll give you the GPS and they'll also give you instructions. There's also a form to nominate a big tree if you think that you've found one that belongs on the list. So they keep a map of every species, the biggest tree in New Hampshire of every species. And then lastly, our last session day is this coming Tuesday, June 30th at the Whittemore Center at UNH. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Which brings us to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple of
Just one
items.
second, okay? I failed to mention that Eileen is on vacation this week, so Paul McCallie is taking the position of town manager for us tonight. Sorry, Paul, thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bear with me, please. This is a little bit lengthy, but good information. The Welfare Department has not been as busy with the regular assistance in rents and utilities, and we hope that is because everyone is able to afford these expenses. Evictions and foreclosure moratoriums are going to expire on June 30th, 2020, and we expect that people that are behind in their rents and foreclosures will start to seek assistance. The governor's office has announced an allocation of $35 million for the CARES Act to support residents in need of housing assistance as it relates to COVID-19. Part of this allocation is housing relief program, which will help with this rent assistance. An eviction notice is not required to do an application. Southern New Hampshire Services, our Community Actions Program, will be handling the applications in the area starting June 30th, 2020. For more information, please visit their website at www.capnh.gov. That's www.capnh.gov. We have been busy with the homeless cases, especially since shelters are having problems with social distancing and keeping people safe. So our welfare department is asking that if you are behind in your rent and you need assistance, please visit the capnh.org. They got, sorry, I got a flyer that says capnh.org, and she wrote capnh.gov. It is capnh.org from Southern New Hampshire Services if you're behind in your rent or you're facing foreclosure. Thank you. In addition, some good news here. The bridge on Bedford Road opened up earlier this month.
Yay.
Work on moving utilities is still continuing, so there might be daily closures of one lane or the other. Please visit the town website for more details as to those closures. In another project, the sewer project down at Babuzik Lake Road to Madeline Bennett has begun and will continue until September. I know that it's not great, but with dry conditions, that means that they were able to actually start digging a lot sooner and without pumping, and the water tables are a little bit lower, so that should help in the sewer project. Rainbow in the drought.
Maybe a silver lining somewhere.
So, but I do want to let you know that I talked to the contractor today on a separate note, and he told me they are already 160 feet from Jessica Drive, 160 feet down the road to the first catch basin. However, that is the easier digging because that's the shallowest part of the sewer line.
Oh, great.
But still, they're moving along with the project, and they seem, if this weather continues, they're going to be very happy and be able to finish by the September timeframe that they're allotted. Thank you, that's all that I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the town manager report?
Did I hear him correctly? They're taking suggestions for the name on the bridge? For the Bedford Road Bridge? Or did I miss that?
I didn't say that.
He didn't say that.
All right, I don't know why.
I've heard rumor
I
like
do
that.
know
Are we
that there's a
gonna name that bridge though?
I believe there's a plaque that has to go up on that bridge due to the fact of the historic
Bridge that got
was-
removed.
That had to be removed. So I believe there's
I
going
think
to be
there is
a
a
plaque.
plan for something.
There is a plan for something.
Okay, thank you, just curious.
Okay, we have no consent agenda tonight. That would bring us to old business, but what I'd like to do is move up number 1 under new business to right now, if that's okay with the council. Consideration for Eagle Scout project at Wasserman Park. Seeing no objections, we'll do that switch and ask Life Scout Kishan Srinivasan to come make his presentation. Thank you, Justin. Okay, so you're working on a project at Wasserman. I understand you presented it to Parks and Rec Committee,
Yes,
and they've accepted it. And so
yes.
we'll let you go ahead and make your presentation, and we'll hit you with as many questions as we can. How's that?
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. My name is Kishan Srinivasan. I am a Life Scout from Troop 424 in Merrimack, New Hampshire, and I will be talking today about my Eagle Scout project. My Eagle advisor is Mr. Jason Plant. I am an upcoming Merrimack High School freshman, and I participate in many clubs and activities. These activities include First Lego League, Science Olympiad, and band. And as I mentioned, I am a Life Scout. I joined Cub Scouts in 2011, and then I bridged over to Boy Scouts in 2017. I've run an assortment of trips such as the State Jamboree, a Whipple cleanup, and a Court of Honor. I've also held many positions in the troop, such as the patrol leader and a den chief, and I've held the role of the senior patrol leader, which is the highest troop position that a scout can have. My Eagle Scout project will be constructing an ADA handicap compliant ramp at Wasserman Park, specifically for the summer camp and day camp office. The ramp will need to be stable and safe and have an opening so that the existing stairs can be used. And as I mentioned, the ADA compliant part will mean that the ramp has to have 1 inch of rise for every 1 foot of ramp, and has to be 36 inches from railing to railing for ample space for the wheelchair. We will also be laying out a stone dust path from the end of the ramp to the handicap parking lot. I lived in Merrimack all my life, and I love Wasserman Park. I've had many experiences there, such as basketball, baseball, tennis, and walking. And this is my way to give back to the park that I love. This is also the top priority for Mr. Kasparius to be done at Wasserman Park. The tools needed for this project are drills, saws, hammers, levels, and wheelbarrows. The total cost of this project will be $1,441.17. I plan to further lower this cost by getting donations from local businesses and buying from local businesses. Right now, the cost estimate is based off the Lowe's and Home Depot website, but as I mentioned, it will be lowered further. In May 2020, I got an approval with Mr. Kasparius, and then last week I got an approval with the Parks and Rec Committee. Now I'm doing the Town Council, and then once this is through, I'll be going on to the Troop Committee. And then in September 2020, I'll be going on to the Eagle Board of Review. The phases for building this ramp are as followed. We will have to have the holes dug by the town and then assemble the outer frame of the deck. Then we have to assemble the outer frame of the ramp and then add the decking boards and the ramp boards. We'll lay out the stone dust path and then as a final step, test the stability. The ramp will be 20 feet long and 4 feet wide, and the deck will be 6 feet by 6 feet. The railing will be 3 feet high, and the stone dust walkway will be 26 feet long and 4 feet wide. In addition to this, to preserve the ramp, we'll be using pressure-treated lumber. As you can see in the 3D model, I have labeled out the dimensions, and that is the ramp part of that, the deck, the railing, and the bottom view. We'll have 4 beams for support underneath both the ramp and the deck. And I have a up-close view, if you guys want, of the pictures.
We have them.
All right, you're
They're
good.
part of our package.
All right, and then I also have this, a little wood structure of the ramp.
You must have made a lot of popsicles, didn't you?
Yeah. That was the fun part.
There you go.
That is where we will be pushing the deck up against the building so that the door can swing open and close freely and still allow the wheelchair to get into the building. And as I said before, we will have an opening for the existing stairs at the day camp office, and it will be 2.5 feet in width so that people can walk comfortably in and out without the wheelchair rolling out. We'll be working on the day camp office right here. And here's the landscape view of the day camp office. As you can see, the stairs that I was talking about. This is where the stone dust path is going to go, the outline of that. And this is the outline of the ramp. We'll be working 2 feet away from the summer camp office so that people can still access the windows and the AC units. I'll be fundraising in September 2020 with car washes and bake sales. And then I'll have 4 work days in June 2021 if the approval process goes as planned. If we go ahead of schedule with the approval and fundraising process, then we will be able to construct in mid-September 2020 through mid-October 2020. For the bake sale, we will need 4 scouts for about 8 hours, and the troop will donate baked goods. For the car wash, we'll need 3 adults and 7 scouts, and it'll take about 5 hours. For each of the 4 workdays, we'll need 3 adults and 5 scouts. I feel that this project has a lot of value because the Wasserman Summer Camp always has a large turnout and is very inclusive. Almost all the buildings there are equipped with handicap accessible ramps, and the construction of this ramp will complete the park's goal of having all the buildings ADA accessible. It is really important that the building I'm working on is accessible because it is the summer camp office and the nurse's office. Thank you so much for listening to me and providing me the opportunity to share with you my project. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Lon?
I apologize to Matt, to you and the council. I did not make the Wednesday Parks and Rec meeting, but I have no problem at all with the project. I know it's been an ongoing goal out there for a while. My specific question, and not to put you on the spot, I had experience at a time with ramps that were built for exactly the access you're hoping for. And the building was complete, the paving was done, everything was done, and there was a huge issue about the degree of slope of the ramp. Well, I suspect that's
Yeah,
been
so
looked
we
into.
went ahead to that area and we measured out all the details and we wrote that
I think
down in
it's
a
like 3
detailed plan.
degrees or
So,
very slim, but
yeah.
just make sure of that.
Yeah, and I can roll back to the part of the landscape view. So that side, on the left side, is a little bit steep, so we chose the right side so that it would be very gradually inclined.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So staying there, this one picture has a huge rock on the right-hand side, and none of the other pictures show that rock. So I didn't get a chance to go out and look at it, but the gravel path that you're planning to make is level or flat from the parking lot?
Yes. Right here on the stone dust path, the rock is a little bit further to the left, so it won't obstruct where the ramp or path
Right,
would be.
and although this looks like a big steep climb because of the way the picture's taken
Yeah.
and stuff, you're saying that's level from the parking lot to the building
Yeah.
across there?
Mhm.
And then you're rising almost 2 feet? From there
About
to the step,
17
or
inches from
17
that
inches?
starting of the ramp to the steps.
Okay. And then the platform is going to be like a 6-inch or 8-inch step up onto it from the
Yeah.
concrete path?
We're gonna try and make the ramp, the deck, as like close to the ground as possible, so it won't be a big step up.
Right. But I mean, the steps that go there right now are only like 3 or 4 inches each, it looks like. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
So at the top, well, the deck will be at the top of the stairs. Like
Right, at the top of
topmost.
that last one, but there's going to be potentially an extra step. You have to keep it below the door,
Yeah.
obviously.
Mhm, yeah, we will be doing that.
Okay. Good. Stone dust path. Power tools? You going to be using any power tools or just hand tools?
Yeah, so the scouting guidelines say that scouts above the age of 14 can use power tools, but we will be using power tools. That's correct.
Okay. And you said you were going to have 3 adults there when you're working on this?
Yes.
Okay. And could you remind me when construction was going to begin and end?
If the approval process goes as planned,
Yep.
then we will be having 4 workdays in June 2021. But if we go a little bit faster, then we'll be able to squeeze in September 2020 because we want to start working before the ground freezes over or and before the summer camp starts in the next year.
What would you be doing in June?
Constructing if the approval process goes as planned.
So, yeah, but that just seems really stretched. So you're doing your Eagle board in when?
September 2020.
And that's before you complete the project?
Yes.
That's to get approval for it?
Yes,
or-
that's
oh,
approval
okay.
to start it.
I thought that was your final presentation, and I was having trouble with the timeline here. It was, so your thought is to get it done this fall,
Yes, hopefully.
September, October. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to work into October, but
Mhm.
unless you get too tied up with school, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to interrupt that. But it sounds great. I know they've talked
you.
about an access ramp there for long time. I've heard it for years. Almost as many as I've been on the council, which is a few years. So it's good to finally get that one going forward. And staying 2 feet away from the building will help to at least be able to manage weeds and grass and stuff that want to try to grow up there. Are you going to put anything underneath the deck to keep grass from growing up through it, or
I haven't
it's
thought of
fairly
that,
shallow.
but I can definitely include that into the project. Yeah.
some kind of landscape cloth or something might be a good
Yeah.
idea, just to, because the last thing we want to do is try and figure out how to pull or cut the weeds underneath, because it's going to be really low.
Yeah.
Um,
I can
Any other
definitely include
questions?
that.
I just have a comment.
Peter.
Nancy was first.
Peter.
Keyshawn, very nice presentation.
Thank you.
Very, very structured. I liked it. You presented yourself confidently, and I think it's a great project to help Parks and Rec finish off what has to be done. So, thank
so
you.
much. Yeah, thank you.
Nancy.
Just to follow up, you've done a really good job.
Thank you.
And you're not even in high school yet. I think your composure, you obviously know the information, you didn't have to read it, so that's all a very good style in your presentation,
Thank you
so
so
kudos
much.
to you.
Thank you.
And good luck, I think it'll be terrific.
Thank you.
And Matt, I think the building needs to be painted. The pictures show,
Yeah.
as we review the pictures, I went, this needs painting around there, so.
Barbara? Speak up.
We-
young lady.
You already know what I thought, because I told you
Yeah,
when you were
thank
sitting in the back. But I have a question for you regarding the stone path.
Mhm.
How deep is that?
It's not, we're not gonna be digging a hole. We're just
Okay,
gonna be
so
laying
it's
it
just
on
a
top of the ground.
surface,
Yeah, just on the
layer,
surface.
okay. Just want to make sure we get those wheelchairs through there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too deep. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
so you also need to make sure that you don't get a bunch of weeds growing up through there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you'll want to put
I mean,
fabric down too.
There's,
Yeah.
yeah, some fabric, something to get it to stay there. So we're not having to repair it every year, hopefully. Finley? Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Keishan, this is, I'm not going to be redundant from what my colleagues say. I absolutely agree with what my colleagues have said tonight. But I would be remiss, one of the things when you get to sit behind here, you talk about the things that are good here in Merrimack. And I really don't, even though we have a drought, I don't know what we do with our water to create such wonderful Eagle Scout programs and Eagle Scout opportunities for young men like yourself to make our community a great place to work, live, and raise a family. And I'm sure my colleagues have heard me time and time again refer to Wasserman as a crown jewel. So what you're doing is hopefully going to be a legacy for the future. And again, it's going to make our jewel continue to be brighter. Wasserman's a great place, and I really appreciate your enthusiasm for Wasserman. So
Thank you so much.
so thank you very much. And man, you're not even a freshman, and potentially going to be an Eagle Scout ahead of some of your predecessors. So I think that really is a testament not only to your work ethic, but it's also a testament to your ability to think things out, plan, and manage to be able to accomplish goals. So you really are to be commended for that. I think that's wonderful. But I also know that probably mom and dad had a little bit of some motivation behind your goal setting. So thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you.
great work. Appreciate it.
Finley? Just,
I think we had your brother before us a year or so, maybe 2 years' time gets away from me. And he did a wonderful job as well, but very, very impressive for sure.
Thank you.
I just wanted, I don't know if somebody, Kyle or somebody might talk to him about, for the path, the stone dust will pack hard, but I don't know
I guess so.
if it,
They're
if
not
it has,
feeling-
if the thickness plays into that or whatever, but we also have that crushed pavement, crushed asphalt that we use for shoring up the sides of our roads when water erodes it away and so on. And that packs hard, I believe. So I don't know if somebody might be able to give some direction on that.
Yeah, I can definitely follow up with that.
Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that when he gets ready to do the layout of, because we're digging the holes and dealing with Matt, if they get together with DPW, if we have some of that compact stuff, which we will be doing a project this summer, so if we have that stuff, maybe we might want to set it aside, so it might be better that, or sooner than later, that Matt may be able to talk to Lori at Highway to set that up for you, so.
Okay.
Especially when you're thinking about digging the holes, so we can get all that stuff also on the schedule.
Anyhow,
Sounds good. Lon, did you have something?
Yeah, just a final comment, Keyshawn. If that project is as successful as your presentation, it'll go over the top.
Thank you so much.
And I also want to add that as a presentation and the Eagle Scout presentation qualities, You've raised the bar for those fellows and gals, too.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Absolutely.
They may not appreciate that as much as we do, but, so thank you very much. If there's anything that we need to sign or whatever
We got
to
to
show
approve it,
that,
Mr. Chairman. We need a motion to approve.
it sounded like we approved it, but you can make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the town council approve Life Scout Keishan Srinivasan's proposed Eagle Scout project to construct an ADA handicapped accessible ramp in Wasserman Park for the day camp / nurse's office, and furthermore, the town manager or her proxy be authorized to sign the paperwork necessary to move the project forward for Keishan.
Second.
Motion was made by Bill and seconded by Nancy. She was closer. Her voice got here a little faster. Any other comments on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the project signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0-0.
Thank you.
Good luck, Keishan.
So,
Thank you
good
so
luck,
much.
and let us know if there's anything we can do to help.
Definitely.
Or if there's any other way that we can get involved. And if you, again, paperwork, get it to us for signatures.
I don't think I need anything signed, but if I do, I'll definitely contact you. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
we have in the past, so you might find you need something, but
Yeah.
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 it's got 3 or 4 signatures on it, it needs one. But anyway, that's great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Good
it.
luck, thank you.
What instrument you play?
I play the alto saxophone.
Good for you,
Looks
stick
like a
with it.
sax on the picture that he put.
I did, I just didn't know if it was an alto, could have been a
Oh.
soprano or a bari.
I did play Barry in middle school, but when I'm going to high school, I will be switching to alto.
Good for you, smart move.
It happens with the voice.
And you're
Yeah.
getting into FIRST Robotics now, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. My kids and I were involved with that. So you'll enjoy that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Should I take back my laptop or just leave it here?
Yeah, take it back, please. Just,
You should want to donate it.
yeah. you can- Probably not.
Probably not. One of the good perks of the job is listening to our Eagle Scouts.
Thank you.
That's right. Especially when they do such a great job. We are going to go back to old business at this point. Well, hang on a second. Let me think about this. I'm going to guess that number 2, the petition for release of Rita Street, is not going to be a very long discussion.
He's hoping.
He's hoping. Is Dawn here, or is she supposed to be?
She had another call, but she's in the building. She's actually at our office, so
We can, if you don't mind, folks, giving us just a few minutes to continue out of order, because otherwise people end up here a long time. And we're going to be here a long time anyway, so. So I think number 2, the petition for release of portion of Rita Street from public servitude, should be fairly straightforward. We've received information from both the Community Development Director and the DPW recommending that we accept this, and gentleman is here to discuss the particulars of the project. So,
Good evening. My name is Matt Peterson with Keach Nordstrom Associates. I would just relay what you guys all just said. I wish he was maybe a senior and he was going away, because you don't find many people that can present in this business very well, and he did a very nice job, and he didn't stutter and all that, so it was great. Yeah, Dawn and me talked about this earlier. She told me probably 8 o'clock or later, so I think she probably waited a little bit. I didn't realize you were out of line, but you did that. This one is up in the Level Acres area. I think most of you guys have probably seen or heard about this here. There's a lot of paper streets that we're trying to clean up. Our client has gone through and working with Dawn and staff and stuff like that to do that. The plan, I sent all PDFs to her earlier, so I assume you guys have them all in front of you. This is just a blow up right here next to me. We basically, Rita ends at Constant Street. It went through to the Reed's Ferry School, and then that's the dead end of it at this location right here, so it won't go any further at this point. Dawn's just asked us to make this into a drainage and access easement for them. So we did that. We gave them the documentation for it. And that's about it. It's a pretty straightforward. There'll be 2. There was 4 lots, 1, 2, 3, 4. There'll be 2 now instead. I'll keep it simple because you said you got a long night.
Now, you haven't merged those yet, is that right, or?
We will do that just with the merge of letter. It hasn't been submitted yet, no.
Okay. What, just for my own curiosity, 6D, which shows on the edge at the top there, 109 and 110, is there another street beyond Rita there that's, so we're not talking about something like those two that also butt up against the school property? Those two there, yeah.
I'm not sure if there's on the other side, there's not at this location here, no. We will be in front of you, I know over the next year that there are some other ones that we're, again, working with the town and stuff like that to clean up. Dawn had made statements that this helps her with her MS4 statements to be able to make sure everything's clean from her drainage and sewer and stuff like that, so.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Peter?
I got actually a couple of questions. Why do we want to do this? What benefit
I
is
guess
to the
the why
town if
not,
we do this?
but, it-
Well, right now, it's in the town, you're releasing it.
Okay.
So
But
right
that
now, it's a
road-
right-of-way to the, right now, it's a right-of-way for a road to be extended.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is getting rid of your right, you don't have to do that, maintain it, anything like that, and we're giving you a drainage easement, so. If you take a look at that. Currently, right now, out there at the corners, you have a catch basin, catch basin, catch basin, and it drains to right here. We've been working with Don to put in a new pipe, a plunge pool here, and then the riprap to go down to the bottom, so there's also improvements that are happening for a drainage
So
standpoint.
by doing this, we're actually doing you guys a big favor, right? The developer?
No, this doesn't do
No?
anything for us.
Okay.
We've already got the
Really,
lots that are
They could merge
there.
those lots, and they would still be,
Yeah.
I just have a couple concerns. I'm saying, geez, in the future, the Reed's Ferry School may need an emergency access road. That was a potential for an emergency access road. And there's another issue with this property that's come to my attention from residents is the manner in which the development has been done in that wetlands. I went down there a couple of times, and it looks like a war zone, and I'm not happy about what used to be a very nice area. And, so to me, I do believe we're doing you a favor, and by doing this, I guess there's part of me that I kind of want to tie in the two. I want some guarantees that the work that's been done, and you're gonna return those wetlands to the manner in which they were. So if you want, in my mind, if you want this favor from us, then I need some guarantees from you, at least from my vote. Because I went out to that area over the last couple months, and it looks terrible from what it was. And pipes sticking up, I'm just not happy about it, obviously, I won't repeat myself. So, I mean, can you, at this point, give us any assurances? Can we get assurances from the builder? To me, I wouldn't mind tabling this until we do that, and maybe take another look at the site and see what's going on out there. I'd ask my fellow councilors to think about this.
okay.
Actually,
Finley?
well, Dawn's here, so I don't know if she wants to speak to it. I can hold off on my thoughts.
Don? I don't know if you just heard what Peter was saying, but he's asking if there's any benefit to the town of doing this, of releasing Rita Road at this point?
I had prepared a little,
You had prepared an opening remark?
I had prepared, yes, but anyway, you've already gone well past that. We did meet with the engineers and the owners of both properties, and their request was to release this section of Rita Street. I went out, I took a look at it to begin with. There's no sewer, there's no water that goes down this section, however, there was drainage. So it was our request, and I spent several months actually going back and forth with the engineer to develop a drainage plan so that they're actually putting in another catch basin, some more pipe, and the most important part is that they are putting in a treatment swale so that the drainage from Constance can then be treated, which is part of our MS4. Therefore, we're asking for an easement to release the land, but to leave an easement and to create an easement plan. As far as the wetlands down below, this doesn't, these lots are not part of that. They're part of the level acres, but they aren't part of what they're constructing now down there. They're separated by, many, many houses.
It's the same developer, right?
It's the same development.
It's the same project.
He bought the remaining lots of Foster, but, and I believe they have gotten all of their wetland permits. So they had everything in place to be able to do the work, and I've been going out and watching the construction of the sewer, which has been happening along Cathy Street recently. So I've been going out just about daily or sometimes a couple times a day.
Do you find that there's any discrepancy or deficiencies in the work that they're doing?
I have not, because I would have.
You would have stopped it?
Yes, and I have stated my concerns, and they've immediately stopped and fixed whatever I had concerns with.
Okay. I'm familiar that these kinds of projects look really bad before they look better.
Yes.
Always, just because of what you're doing is digging up an area and working on it and stuff like that.
And I will say the very first thing that they did was to put up their siltation fence and to do their detention basins at the bottom of the hill, and all the water from Cathy and Constance can go down and be treated before it gets anywhere. So it hasn't gone into the big wetland area. They do have a dredge and fill for sections of that. That does exist. We went through all of that. Like I said, we've put months into, or they have put months into, and I've been with them every step of the way. In watching, they would put it by me before they would submit.
Okay. Thank you. Finley?
I suspected if there were wetlands violations, it would have been called out already, because they're pretty tight about that. But I had forgotten about access for the school until Peter just mentioned it. There is only one way in and out of Reed's Ferry Elementary, and when you go back to when they did the site plan work and everything, that the church, Bedford Road Church, I think it's now called, there was an access point to the school there. It was never fitted up to be utilized by safety equipment or anything. But and it's written about in the minutes of those meetings, but it never was finalized in the site plan. There was no mention of it being an access point. And I'd hate to slow things down because I like seeing this kind of thing happen, and I believe the drainage swale's a great idea, but the tabling thing, I didn't think I would be jumping on, but I'm contemplating that because I'd like to talk to the church and see if we can get that access point there, because if not, and I don't know how it would fit into this. I'm looking at the satellite view on my phone, trying to get it in my head, and I'm just not sure how it would fall into place.
The Rita Street that they're asking for discontinuance on, it goes out, drops off a little bit, but fairly gentle slope, and then it just drops.
Drops hard.
And there's no way we're going to
Couldn't do it there anyhow.
construct anything in that location. It would take an awful lot, and we'd have to take land on the sides to be able to make the slopes work and that type of thing.
Sure, no, okay. Because I know the area, but I just can't,
I went out there, and when it first came to us, it was winter. There was still what snow we had. There was snow out there, and I actually have pictures of the snow. And yes, and I did go over it, and I looked over the side, so yes.
Yeah. So it wouldn't serve a purpose anyhow.
And they have gone out, they've had wetland scientists, they've gone out and they've marked their wetlands. I've seen the flags out there delineating their wetlands. I had some neighbors call me recently, and I again went out and looked at it.
Okay. No, I appreciate that.
They've gone step by step,
Yep, no, good. Peter mentioning that just all of a sudden piqued my thought, because we've still done nothing with that second egress or whatever, but.
Right.
Thank you, Don.
Peter?
Again, Don, what assurances do we have from La Montagne, they're the builder, that they're gonna restore that area, that wetlands area?
By restore, what do you say?
I mean, it looks terrible right now. It was such a nice area, and it's basically destroyed.
they haven't taken their equipment through any areas that they were not allowed to go in.
I get that. I talked to the state, the DES, and went back and forth on emails with them regarding that. But the other issue too is, I'd like to go out and take a look at that before we move on this. Take a look at that section. So I'm asking my counselors that we table this matter, possibly till the next meeting, so that, one, I'd like to go out and review this section of the roadway to see, are we losing an actual access? I get what you're saying about the storm drain, and that's important. And I can appreciate that, but I'd still like some time to take a look at it.
And I can appreciate that, and I have been looking at it, and knowing the concerns of all of the abutters, I have paid extra attention, because they have been calling and they have been talking to me, and I've been trying to, explain it to them. And it's hard when you lose something that's always been there.
You're sort of making my point is the concern is, and I've heard from these people via email and so forth too. I think some of
Has
my
anybody
fellow
else heard from
councils
them?
have, but.
Can I just
Well,
make a statement?
I have, so. So that's all I'm suggesting to the council at this point is, I'd like to go out and see that stretch of, that right of way there to see what we're giving up before we give it up.
If I
Well,
could just
I-
chime in on Peter's there, just state, first of all, I have no problem continuing this for 30 days.
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, I have no problem continuing this for 30 days. We're not trying to push everything through with you. You're making statements that are a little bit wrong that I'd like corrected a little bit. There's nothing we're getting out of this. So the only thing that is right now, there's a property line here and a property line here, and there's a land between it. So the only thing we're getting is that, yes, we don't have a side setback from this lot line, there's a side setback from this lot line out, but that doesn't change where we can put a house on this property here. So it's cleaning up, again, this paper street. And then your second point, this is a proposed drainage and access easement. If you want to have a secondary access point, that's why we've left this here. As Don said, it's a little tough to maybe construct, but 20 years from now, everybody, there'll be new technology and they'll construct something there.
Will you guys do that for us?
And then thirdly, it's very upsetting that you feel that the client was doing this. I am bringing that back to them tomorrow, and I will discuss that
Thank
with
you.
them when they're out there, and I've heard clearly your concerns, and they will hear them from me tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Nancy?
I just want to express, sort of address some of your concerns, Pete. First of all, I haven't heard anything from anybody, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm aware of the circumstances, and I'm aware of the difficulty the neighbors are having with the wetlands, and that's multidimensional. It's very difficult to have a beautiful place that was the back of your house. I know. I know. We won't get into that. But anyway, but I can appreciate that. I can, especially when it's wetlands and the ramifications. But we have to remember a couple of things. One, it's already been through the planning board a couple of times, is my understanding. It wasn't just recent, it was years ago. And DES does not allow wetlands to be destroyed. You can get mitigation that if you end up altering wetlands, then you have to make it up somewhere else. I'm well aware of that configuration. But I personally don't think anything could go underhanded without, and Don's keeping an eye on it. So I understand their passion and their disappointment and all of those things. But nothing was done shady, which is nothing that I've heard, nothing that's been presented to me. And I do trust that, and it's not going to be returned to the way it was. It's impossible.
Well, I didn't insinuate anything shady. was
Okay,
done.
then I misunderstood
underhand.
that.
I misunderstood too, so.
I'm,
Because I never used those terms and never
No,
did.
no,
I
you
asked them,
didn't. No, you
what-
didn't.
Insinuated.
What benefit does the company, the developer, get out of it?
yes, but you also brought up the whole concept of that development of that area, which was a contingency that you talked about. So, and I understand. I mean, I think you're doing your job representing citizens. But I also think there has to be a perspective of due diligence was done. And even though it's horrible looking, it will get better when it's done, and there is a loss that's going to happen for the neighbors. It's not going to be the same.
Well, it's not their
It
property
is.
either.
Yeah, all of that's true. So I understand their passion, their disappointment and all that, but I think due diligence was done. And I do trust Dawn. I know she can be a real pain in the neck, which is what her job is supposed to be.
Said
She's
with
supposed
lots
to be,
of respect
she's
and-
supposed to be protecting the citizens and making sure that all of the plans and all the decisions made are adhered to. And so I trust that.
It's not a distrust of Dawn either.
Oh, I
It's
agree with
just-
that.
It's going out and seeing from my own eyes what it looks like and what it is, and I get it. You have to have, to reach the final, to finish the project, yeah, it's gonna look ugly for a little while, but from what I saw there, it seemed like it was overkill, so. One man's opinion, that's all.
I get you, I get you.
Paul?
Don, I know you were getting ready and we talked today. Do you have pictures of this area, the PDF, or did you run up here without them?
I did not come up with the pictures because I wasn't prepared for that comment, and I should have thought about it. I just looked on my phone and I've downloaded them. That's what I was looking for, was the pictures. And I have one picture of the silt fence and part of it's on the wetland side and part of it's on the side they just constructed. That's all I took, unfortunately. But what they had done was took out the beaver dam. And that's why the water went down. That's why everything looks really, yeah. But as far as going into the wetlands with their construction, I don't believe that they've crossed that line, that they've gone beyond what was allowed by the state.
Okay,
But
for us
I
to,
wish I had pictures for you. I apologize.
for us to be able to go forward with this, Peter, you talked about wanting to make a motion to table. You haven't made that motion.
Okay.
It's non-debatable. If you make the motion, we'll vote on it and decide whether we go forward.
At this time, I'd make a motion that the council table this matter for a period of 30 days to allow us to review that section of property that we would be giving away.
Okay, there's a motion to table. Is there a second? For failure of a second, the motion's not in order. I will say, Peter, that the planning board has had the opportunity to go out and see it. We're not the planning board, we're the town council. You're welcome to go out and see it anytime. In fact, you've heard about the situation. I haven't, and it sounds like other councilors haven't heard about the situation either. So I'm a little surprised you haven't taken the opportunity to go out and see it, and yet want to delay and have the entire council go out and see it, so.
I guess when the emails came to me from citizens, I thought they came to you as well. It sounds like Dawn's heard from residents out there as well, so.
I've heard from several, and when I go out inspecting, sometimes there's people walking out there, and I try to answer their questions as best as I can.
And in fairness, Mr. Chairman, Peter did forward the emails regarding Kathy Street, and I did read those emails, and I actually did, this was a couple months ago.
Oh, maybe that's.
Couple months, it wasn't recent, so I'm
No
sorry.
wonder I can't remember.
Wasn't recent, it was a couple months ago that Peter copied us in on some comments that he sent to Eileen regarding Kathy Street. And I have been out there to look at that particular site. And I do agree with Councilor Albert that the dynamic of what was a very attractive wetland has been changed. But I'm also reminded by Councilor Rothaus and you, Councilor Harrington, that, and obviously Don, they got to go to the state, they got to follow the rules, they got to follow the law. They went to the planning board, and as long as they've met the criteria,
We can't stop.
there's nothing we can do. So, and I really, I do feel for the neighborhood,
Do too.
but the rules were followed. And if the rules weren't followed, I know that
We'd be on them.
Mrs. Tromalo would be all over it, would absolutely be all over it, so.
And I see both sides also.
Oh, I agree
And
with
I
you. I agree with
understand.
you, Dawn.
You know, I hate seeing wetlands, but, you know, they're not into that wetlands. And just because the water may not be there does not mean that it's not a wetland. It does not have to have water to be a wetland.
That's right.
And on the flip side, it can have water and not be a wetland.
That's absolutely true as well.
I'm not saying one.
So the request is that we release and discharge the portion of Rita Street and allow for an easement to be placed on it and drainage to handle the Constance, Rita, and some Kathy Street drainage. Is that right? Are there any more comments or questions from the council? Go for it.
I'd like to make a motion to release and discharge per RSA 231:51 a portion of Rita Street in the Level Acre subdivision, and also to incorporate the recommendations presented by the staff from the Community Development and Public Works.
Does that meet our requirements, Don? Yes?
Town manager or her proxy?
Be
To
able to
sign?
sign any permission. Yes, add that.
Is that okay with the second?
Absolutely.
All right.
See, Bill wouldn't have forgotten that.
What's that?
Bill wouldn't have forgotten that.
Bill wouldn't have.
I wasn't
No.
quick tonight, so that's.
Oh, their proxy.
Yes, there you go.
If
It's
there's
an
no other
internal thing.
discussion, we'll go to a vote on the motion to discontinue a portion of Rita Street. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Peter, and any abstaining? None. So it passes 6-1-0 with Peter Albert in the negative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, thank you.
Okay. Not that one. So at this point, we'll go back to old business. Number one, town reopening plan follow-up discussion submitted by Parks and Rec Director Matt Kasparis. Town council to discuss and consider the following. We'll go through these one at a time, I guess. Matt, do you want to join us?
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes,
before we
please.
start? The only comment I really want to preface this with is, I can't believe the amount of work you put into this. I mean, it happened before, but the amount of detail, and I'd have a question in my mind, and the next page you'd have answered it. So I appreciate, one, the amount of research and work you've done, but also to be able to be proactive in the kinds of questions that we were. So I just want to thank you and congratulate you for a job well done.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to just kick this off by saying, at the last council meeting, we were discussing football and cheerleading and contact sports. Since that meeting, Matt received a call from the football and cheerleading coordinators of the MYA, and they have requested that they be allowed to do practice with non-contact, socially distanced, and following socially distanced procedures. However, because at the last council meeting, we specifically said football and cheerleading. That's why we're before you again, to see if the town council will allow the football and cheerleading through non-contact and socially distanced to be able to practice.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to add anything to that, Matt, or did he cover it?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay. So, Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, are the spirit squads going to be comfortable just doing basic cheers and basic tumbling as opposed to some of the reach and grab, you know?
They are, yes, and we've already kind of talked through all of that. They have a lot of kind of cardio conditioning type activities that they can do
Okay.
in the meantime, and then from there, they're in kind of a holding pattern until the governor gives us new guidance on youth sports.
Okay. Okay,
They
thanks,
do a
Matt.
lot of running to
Yeah.
get into
I'm
condition.
sure they'll do a lot of
Absolutely.
cardio, yeah. Any other comments or questions on the idea of football and cheerleading being able to do non-contact practice? Yes.
Yeah, and this is what I was looking for, was some guidance from MYA or the Cardinals to say, hey, this is what we're going to do, because at the time we made that initial decision, we didn't really have any guidance, and we didn't know what they were going to do, and now we do. Thank you.
Yep.
So is it just football and cheerleading, or were there any other
Those were the only ones that were
sports
excluded last time.
that were
so.
excluded last time? So what we're talking about is allowing them to begin holding non-contact practices
Correct.
and training?
And because their season usually starts in July anyway, so.
Yeah,
End of July, beginning of August.
Yeah.
right. And they need to be prepared.
Right.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments on that one? Can we have a motion to
So
allow?
moved, Mr. Chairman, that the town council allow the MYA football and cheerleading programs to hold non-contact practices at their respective facilities in town.
Are we restricting it just to MYA, or is there a chance that there's anybody else that would?
There is another cheerleading organization within the town, so I would anticipate that we'd include them as well.
The MYA football and cheerleading program and any other ancillary cheerleading programs. that
Football or
are-
cheerleading program.
Football, cheerleading programs that exist within the town of Merrimack.
To begin holding non-contact.
Non-contact practices. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Seconded by Peter. Sorry, Barbara. Any other comments from the council or questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote on that motion to allow football and cheerleading non-contact practices. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0-0. Next up is town playgrounds.
Mr. Chair?
Paul.
Thank you. As I forgot to mention in my town manager's report, we paved the MYA parking lot, and as of yesterday, it was opened up because we opened up the basketball courts and things of that sort. With that being opened up and with everything else going on and some of the other communities around us, as stated by Director Kasparius, that other communities are starting to open up playgrounds. And with that parking lot being open and the field's going to be open because now they can use for baseball and the same thing at Vets Park. So some of these playgrounds, their little brothers and sisters or other kids want to go start playing on it. So we're coming in front of the council to see what is your opinion of opening up the playgrounds with signage basically saying that we are not cleaning it, we are not sanitizing it, please use this at your own risk. And if people want to use the playground, they can use the playground at that point. And I believe the governor has talked about that or mentioned something about that.
Yeah, so the governor's guidance document was written really for outdoor attractions, but there was a line in there that incorporated playgrounds. But it also talked about zip lines and mini golf and all these other things, but then it's like, well, you got to clean them every 2 hours. And that's just impractical, because obviously you can't stand somebody there 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so what pretty much all the communities around us have done is they've gone to the signage message that Paul just mentioned as a way, because people are starting to use them anyway. Whether the signage is there or not, they're going to use them.
2 hours isn't going to help. You'll have 12 to 20
Right.
kids play on that in that 2 hour
Absolutely.
period. And
So this seems like a more practical solution to allow them and put the signage out. And I did include, I think in your packets, you should have the kind of sample signage that a lot of my colleagues are using that we can have made up.
Peter?
And seeing the other communities opening up, I don't have a problem with that, but I am noticing that Concord's doing a cleaning one time a day. And I kind of crossed my mind that we've got this grant for $600 and something thousand. I don't know how much money is left in the grant, but, and if the money could be used for something like the town purchases a power washer, and we pay a couple of the DPW employees, maybe come out first thing in the morning and hit the playground at Wasserman and hit the playground at Kids Cove. At least do it for a couple weeks or a month if it's not too expensive, just to do that. I mean, if we've got that grant money, and so. Paul, can you tell us what's left in that grant or what we have?
I cannot tell you what we have left in that grant. Not to put me on the spot. We are spending the money. I've been dealing with them on a lot of issues. We have overtime that FEMA is paying for, but 25% of that can be reimbursed. We have the additional money that has been spent on the police and fire stipend that they had that can be reimbursed. The next reimbursement is due in July. I don't know where we are exactly at with the $607,000. I can tell you 100% that we have not spent it all. Can this money be used for that? 100%, yes, it can. It can be used for that purpose and doing that purpose. I just don't know the proper sanitizing of the equipment and whether power washing is how it's going to affect some of our equipment with being the wood and cracking out the wood, because I know when you pressure wash a deck, if you're not careful, you can get a lot of splinters, and, that might lead to another problem.
Yeah.
We can definitely look into the proper sanitizing, to do that, and come back to the council and see if it's something that's doable. Those sanitizing machines, I was talking to the school, one sanitizing machine for one of the schools to clean the buildings is $45,000. So that's one piece of equipment. And, oh, by the way, 12 to 16 week lead time to get it. So I don't know what the proper sanitization is for a playground, and I would be leery of hitting it with a pressure washer. The swing, the slide, the plastic, 100% hit it with a power washer. The wood, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm thinking, when you power wash, you hit it with water and bleach,
Yeah.
and then rinse it off. You don't have to really put it to it, and I saw we had this grant money, and
Right.
that's the only reason I'd advocate doing it. If we had the grant money, it's gonna go away and we don't use it, so.
We can look into that.
No, I get it, thank you.
Okay, Barbara?
Yeah, from a microbial virology standpoint, hitting it once a day is pretty much worthless. Whether you did it in the morning or you did it in the afternoon, it really isn't going to make a difference, because especially in the summertime where you have heat, you have sunlight, anything that happens to be on the surface is going to die fairly quickly, and the virus may be present, but it's going to be dead, and it will no longer be virulent. So the fact that they're doing it once a day is they're just doing it to make people feel more comfortable. If parents are bringing their children to the park, I would say that what you want to do is bring some wipes, and just wipe the chains for the swings or wherever that child is going to be playing. But to say that once a day, no, it's not worth the exercise.
I also forgot, sorry, Mr. Chair, forgot, we're in a level 3 watering ban, no outside watering.
Yeah.
So we technically, as the town, cannot break that rule from MVD as well. So hopefully we won't be in for long, but when she said watering, sorry.
Yeah, yep. So, anybody else? Are you comfortable with that, Peter, as an answer?
I'm very comfortable. I'm looking at this grant money and I'm
No,
thinking.
I agree.
That's, as you've noticed over the last 2 months, I'm trying to find ways to use this grant money.
You don't trust us.
I'm sure. So do we, I guess, need a motion to open up the playgrounds with the caution that we're not sanitizing and people need to use at their own risk? Lon?
Before a motion,
Yep,
can I just do my OneNote stuff?
sure. I didn't see you raise your hand, so I apologize.
I didn't realize we were ready for a motion. I'm still where I was in March. And again, everything is about public safety. And kids are kids, parents are gonna be parents, they're gonna do whatever they want. Talking about opening up playgrounds in June 25, I guess it is today, isn't any different than what we were talking about back in March. I'll be voting no on a motion to open. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Anybody want to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the town of Merrimack open up the town playgrounds with the appropriate signage prominently displayed in a visual location, and any other recommendations that the town manager's office needs to do to
Meet all CDC.
Meet all CDC requirements, thank you.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Seconded by Barbara. Motion by Bill, seconded by Barbara to open up the playgrounds with cautionary signs, understanding that we're not going to be sanitizing them or cleaning them every 2 hours, and the signs will indicate that. Is there any other comments on the motion? We'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And abstaining? That's 6-1-0 with Lon Woods in opposition. Bringing us to the Wasserman Park Function Hall.
Mr. Chair, as you know, the governor has opened up for 50 people groupings and weddings and things of that sort. We get a lot of summer rental requests to hold weddings there in the park, or for rentals for family reunions and things of that sort. We would abide by the CDC following the guidelines for that. This is for Wasserman Park and the function hall. However, I would be remiss if I didn't also say that we got an email from John O'Leary the John O'Leary Center over the weekend, and in talking to the director over there, is that he does not have the staffing or the ability right now to open up that facility to any of these functions or rentals for weddings and things of that sort, because some of the guidelines that he has to follow. It's a little different at Wasserman Park, because at Wasserman Park we actually have a part-time custodian that will be able to go in and clean up after the event and make sure that the room is sanitized and is sanitary after the event and things of that sort. Whereas the O'Leary Center, there's a lot of different groups that use it, and one might meet 7 o'clock in the morning, and then somebody might come in at 10, and they don't have somebody on staff that is able to go in there and clean up. So we are only talking about the Wasserman Park facility, because in conversations with the O'Leary Center right now, they are trying to come up with a way, and that might come on a future agenda to the town council to discuss. So, sorry for the long-winded response, but basically we're looking to open up Wasserman Park for rentals and see how the town council feels about opening that up again.
Okay, Matt, do you have some suggestions or?
Yeah, well, one, I'll put in this, because camp is not running, there's not a whole lot going on at the park. So this is something we feel we can provide the service to and be able to meet all the guidelines that are, outlined in the governor's guidance for function halls, and still provide a service for people that are looking for it. We do get calls. We've been kind of putting people on hold at this time until we get an answer, but there has been interest from people. So it is something that we are looking to do.
Do you want to also go into your fee schedules and stuff?
Sure.
Or is that a different discussion?
No, we can do it all together. So we've had the same fee structure in place for 3.5 years now, and we had already been kind of working towards proposing some increases, because it hasn't changed since then, since we opened the building to rentals back in 2016. We've been steadily building our rentals up there, especially during the school year. We're booked 3 out of 4 weekends with, it might be one event a weekend, but we've been getting the interest. So, with the extra work that we'll be required to do for, to meet the kind of COVID-19 guidelines, but also just because it's been 4 years and trying to kind of continue raising the additional revenues for the facility, we are looking at a fee schedule. In our current schedule, basically for Merrimack residents, it's $125 for a 3-hour block of time, which is by far cheaper than anybody. And then beyond the 3 hours, it's $25 for each additional hour. And then a non-resident pays us, it's $300 for that first 3-hour block of time. One of the things that we're looking to do is to streamline the process a little bit, open up right now we don't have the ability to take reservations online. Our software can't handle the kind of the mixed-use fee structure. So we're trying to simplify it a little bit and just kind of do with straight 3-hour blocks. We also were looking at, going from 125 for 3 hours to 175 for 3 hours for a resident, and then basically sticking with a double fee for non-residents of 350. We were also looking at the idea of trying to attract maybe some local businesses that need a meeting location for an event or those types of things. Something that's during the daytime when we're already there, so it doesn't take much for us to. It's not like I have to bring somebody in extra to, so we'd have kind of a reduced, non-prime time pricing of $100 and then $200 for a non-resident. We also have, one of the things we've never offered before, but we've been asked about, and we already have the equipment. Right now we have a flat fee on using the kitchen, and most of our groups don't use the kitchen. Usually it's incidental, like they just need the fridge to store something, but most of them aren't cooking there or, those kinds of things. But we have asked about kind of AV equipment, screens, projectors, sound systems, stages, and we have all that, which we use for our own events, but the rest of the time it kind of sits in a closet. So making those types of things available as additional fees, just to use the equipment that we already have. Right now we're getting, most of the stuff that we get are kind of kids' birthday parties, family reunions, and so our competitors are the John and Elyria Adult Community Center, which charges anywhere from $285 to $800 based on the number of people. The other competitor that we get for those types of events would be somebody like Altitude Trampoline Park. And so again, we're trying to, particularly for our residents, trying to provide an affordable solution. The playground is very attractive, being right next to the building as an event for these types of things anyway. And so again, trying to keep us in an affordable mindset. We talked about the pricing. The last thing we talked about doing, we get 2, maybe 3 weddings, receptions there a year. As we've been continuing to improve the hall, those are starting to pick up a little bit more. And one of the requests that we get very often is it'll be a Saturday wedding, and they want to come in and set up on Friday night. And we've allowed that, but it's been kind of paying that $25 each an additional hour from Friday night until Saturday night, because I can't use it, but realistically, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
Yeah.
So we're kind of looking at a block price and a flat fee of, it's 4 blocks of time is what that would work out to be. So it'd be $700 for a resident to do basically Friday night setup, and you have it for the day on Saturday, and then $1,200 for a non-resident. And again, just a way to kind of increase our revenues a little bit over there to keep up with rising costs of heat and electricity and, those types of
Maintenance
things.
and everything else. Yeah.
And maintenance and everything else. So, so those are the bullet points of what we're looking to do this year. Both open the facility, but then also kind of raise the fee to kind of generate some additional revenues. But we're still kind of on the lower end of what everybody else in the area is charging.
Peter?
Matt, we got, and any of my fellow counselors or Paul want to chime in here, but we got an email from Steve Dembo regarding the senior center.
Mm-hmm.
And he went through a list of things that they have to do, and it made it almost, unrealistic. You would have to do the similar things. And that was my opinion. I told Steve, I said, geez, it just seems like there's too much to do, that why open until we can,
Right.
And I guess I'm kind of feeling that same way about the hall at Wasserman.
We, if I may, we typically will only do one event a day, versus O'Leary Center might, I think Paul said earlier, might have something at 7 a.m. with Rotary Club, and then they might have a yoga bridge at 10, and, so theirs is,
Wheels
4,
on
5,
Wheels
6
at
events a
noon.
day, and we're looking at kind of one event a day. And again, a building that's just kind of sitting there that could be used.
And the biggest thing, the biggest thing is we have staff there. We have a part-time janitor, we have 2 full-time staff there, where the John O'Leary Center does not have any staff.
Okay.
So we do have staff, and our building is set up, the function hall is set up for some of that one-way traffic,
Mhm.
because we do have the deck area where They can come in the front door, go down the alley to the function hall one way, and then to exit, they can exit off into the porch area and out that way. So our function hall is a little bit easier to set that one-way traffic patterns and things of that up as well. So, and like I said, we have staff there. And that's the biggest difference between us and John O'Leary, is that we're paying staff to be there, and they can actually do this.
Any other question? Finley?
The senior group, I can't remember what they call themselves, they utilize the O'Leary Center, right? Are they charged for that, or do they have the opportunity to just use it?
The American senior citizens?
Yes.
I believe they pay a fee. A minimal fee?
Yes.
Yes, a minimal fee to be there, but it's not.
Because I was approached by somebody.
Doesn't come close to what you're talking about in terms of fees.
Yeah, and so I
Yeah.
didn't know if there
Very
could,
minimal.
if they could be utilizing this facility if it wasn't being used for a function. I didn't know if that was a possibility. It's funny, because they're wondering, and I'm thinking, you'd want to stay away, wouldn't you? But they don't.
They really do miss not having
Sure.
that availability.
Yes. And we have enough, that room, that function hall room is big enough where we could have, I won't say 50, maybe 10, 15, 20 people being able to be socially distant at 6 feet apart and things of that sort. We're not trying to take business away from John O'Leary. This is John O'Leary.
No,
Center.
I know.
We're trying, in this time of need for the community, Matt brought this forward saying, hey, look, Paul, we have the staff, we're here, we can pick up the slack during this time of need. When it goes back to business as usual, we figure, if the Rotary wants to be, they're gonna go back to John O'Leary, things of that sort.
Right.
So we're not trying to steal any business from them, we're just trying to help out the community in time of need.
I'll tell them to get in touch with you.
And may I?
Assuming
And what
this-
also happens is some of the people who go there for the Meals on Wheels, you can actually eat there as well. Also attend the meetings right after those. So, and I think for some of the residents, Westman will probably be too far, but they'll figure out a way if they want to. They'll carpool.
Carpool. Do you have more questions, or you just?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't know whether your hands were up or you're just comfortable, that's fine. Any other comments? Is there a motion to accept the function hall opening with the fee rate structure as proposed by Matt Kasparias?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Bill and seconded by Lon to allow the function hall to open under the guidelines as outlined with the fee rate structure as proposed. Any other comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? It passes 7-0-0. Which, town meeting room usage for outside groups.
Right. Mr. Chair, we have a couple of groups that do come and use our town meeting rooms. Toastmaster comes on, I believe, Thursdays and uses this room right before and out, between 5 and 6 or 4:30 and 6 o'clock. We have the Bass Fishing Club that would use the other meeting room and things of that sort. So, and we have the Girl Scouts, as we know, on Thursday nights. Sometimes they're over in the other building. Currently, we only have really one conference room, and that's this conference room, because we've been doing a lot of things with the election that came up with absentee ballots and using overflow staff to work in our memorial conference room. For the summer, that conference room might be back available, but I believe towards late summer in August, we're going to have to turn that conference room back into absentee ballot if things haven't changed, because in September we have the primary for state officials, and then in November we have the general election. So I don't know if we want to open up the conference rooms for outside businesses right now, where we're trying to schedule planning board, zoning board, town council meetings, agricultural commission, all the other meetings that we have. we're trying to fit them in the school board and trying to fit them back into this one conference room that we technically are using for all this. So we decided that we bring it up to the town council because of the last week and a half. We did get some phone calls from some of these outside groups asking, now that you're open back up, can we come back in? So we're asking the town council whether or not they allow outside groups back in or continue the moratorium until maybe after the September or October timeframe.
And staff's recommendation is that we not?
I would recommend, because we're down one conference room right now, that we keep it the way we are. And because Matt has spacing, you opened up Wasserman Park, they can go down there. Now, you know.
Can they go down, they don't pay to use this conference room, do they?
No, they don't. They don't pay to use this conference room. The Girl Scouts give us in kind, so to speak. They kind of do projects for us and things of that sort around town. And then the fishing club or the bass people would give a donation to the town. You know, after their fundraiser, they would come in and give a donation to the town. So they give it back in other ways. So, you know, but my recommendation is to keep it to town groups, meaning town council, school, and committees of the town of Merrimack to use the conference rooms at this time.
Understanding that we still have the COVID-19 around, we're still doing social distancing, we're still doing cleaning and sanitizing and
Right.
things of that nature, I can understand where you're coming from and why. I mean, each of those groups that would come in, we'd have to come through and sanitize afterwards as well.
Right.
And things of that nature. Does anybody else have any comments or suggestions on what Paul is recommending, that we keep it to town and school staff meetings of sort, if you will, at this point until sometime further notice? Okay? I don't think we need any special vote on that unless somebody disagrees.
Just a question, the groups that have used town hall, are they going to be made aware of the alternative location, or will they be made aware of the alternative location?
We will tomorrow. I will talk to the secretary in the town manager's office, because she has a list of people, and we'll let them know that other areas are available as well. And most of them are meeting virtually through Zoom and
Right.
things like that. So we're just continuing the policy that we have.
Okay. And then there's a section in here about new community special event featuring fireworks.
Yes. Before we do that, Mr. Chair, if we could, we have one other thing that came in today about the MYA. Since they're opening up the ball field, they have their cantina, so to speak, that they, concession stand that they sell.
Yeah.
And the same, if football does occur in the fall, I guess we can take the football if that's park at a later date. But is it of the town council that if they follow all the health and safety regulations, they can open up that concession stand at Bice Field? Does the council have a problem if they have to, because they have to follow because they would have to follow all the health and get all the health inspections and be with the CDC? They aren't waived for any of that. They have to get all those.
Right, they don't have indoor seating to
They don't
worry
have
about.
indoor seating and stuff like that.
So unless, I don't see any argument, as long as they're following the guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
That everybody else needs to follow to sell
Right.
food.
Thank you. So back to the agenda item of new community special events. At the last meeting, the council made the tough decision to cancel the 4th of July fireworks. And I am sure that you have heard from several people about that and canceling the fireworks. Matt has worked very diligently. He called the Rotary. He's thought about a lot of different things. We have several opportunities that Matt has presented in here. I think he gave you 3 events potentially. If Rib Fest happens with the Rotary this fall, we can do something in conjunction with Rib Fest. The Rotary was kind of looking for Old Home Day in October. We can look at something for the Old Home Day. And then in April 2021, the town of Merrimack is celebrating a yearly, a nice event. I believe We, 225.
275.
275. Jeez, math guy can't add. 275th anniversary for the town of Merrimack. So we really could put that money to a nice fireworks display and a nice event for our 275th anniversary as well. So Matt has thought of these three things. Not to say that we can't do something smaller for Rib Fest, for fireworks, or Old Home Days with fireworks, and then put it on a nice display for the 275th anniversary, which is April 2021.
April
so.
2, yeah. Matt, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure.
Off the top?
So, yeah, as Paul said, I've got kind of three options. We can certainly do something either in conjunction with Rotary and their Rib Fest. We can do something independent of them, and Rotary has said they'd provide us with volunteers as long as we avoid the weekends either side of their Rib Fest event. And, you know, whether that's an Old Home Days or almost like the old Merrimack Rocks event that used to exist in town, something like that. We can do that. September feels really early to me.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of question marks.
That's what happens when you get older.
You know, you know, there's a lot of question marks on whether, you know, and even actually this afternoon the governor was talking, and somebody asked him about, I guess, Bike Week was talking about trying to organize for August, and he kind of said August might be really tough, maybe October, you know. So October might, if we wanted to do something in the fall, you know, we'd probably be looking at the third weekend of October, which would then push. We also have our annual Halloween party in October, which is usually the week before Halloween, but Halloween falls on a Saturday this year. So it would probably push our Halloween party on Halloween, just so that we're not doing two major events in a
Right
row,
on top
you
of
know.
each other, yeah.
Just to give us enough time to put everything together. So we can do that. But to me, looking at, you know, a big anniversary next year, that seems to make a lot of sense to me. We could do something, you know, maybe it's all weekend long, or, you know, multiple days, you know. So it's April 2nd, which is a Friday, that unfortunately is Good Friday, because Easter is on that Sunday. So that's my only hesitation with that, and whether that's an issue or not. And again, maybe you make it kind of a week long so it's not so,
Yeah.
you know, but maybe just the fireworks are on Friday, or, you know, something along those. But that would also give us 9 months to plan something and do it right. You know, make something big in kind of multiple areas in town, you know. Historical Society I would envision would do something, the library would do something, you know, and kind of have kind of everyday events kind of thing. And it's a little more of a, you know, we could get a kind of a committee together to really plan that out, versus if we do October, it's James and I.
Okay.
So and we can do that.
Let me just start off with the suggestion. I really appreciate these options you brought forward, and I think it does give us some opportunities. And I tend to agree with you, September is probably too early to try and plan a big event. And we have yet to do our annual retreat, where we talk about what we want to be accomplishing in the upcoming year and stuff. And so I would like to push this discussion into that retreat and let us have an opportunity to talk about what our different opportunities are, because I don't think there's an urgency that we come up with a final. Just what's good is that we can present that there are options and there are ways that we can go forward and have a celebration, even though we weren't able to have one on July 4th.
Right.
If that's okay with you, I'd
That's
like
fine.
to recommend we do that, because we do have this retreat we want to hold. And, but yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, the only thing is that option number one, it would be that much later, so we might as well just knock off option number one. Oh, no, with September. Is that option number two?
No, option number one is September.
Option one
September,
is the October.
Because that leaves very
Rib
little
Fest.
time to preparation, even if we choose to. So I think, I'm not against your idea, but I think we have to acknowledge that if we do that, we're automatically ruling out some of this just because of time frame. That's all.
Yeah.
And if I may, if we do something with Rib Fest, it would be more along the lines of basically just paying for the fireworks, and the Rotary setting everything up, and working with Anheuser-Busch, and we would just have we would have the contract with the firework company to go and tell them, you're going to Anheuser-Busch to set
it
off your
there,
fireworks. Here you go, kind of deal. We wouldn't be putting on that event. The other two events would definitely be spending a lot of time with it and putting it on. I hear pretty clearly what the council is saying, and I hear what the chairman's saying about putting this on the retreat. We just wanted to bring it forward to you because of the last meeting where you guys, the council asked, I think the quote was, I feel more comfortable if I knew we were gonna have fireworks at a later date.
Something, yeah.
So Matt took that football, for lack of a better term, and ran with it and came up with these great ideas, and that's why we wanted to bring them back to the council and to the people, residents of Merrimack, to know that we are not just canceling Fourth of July. There are other opportunities to go ahead, so.
Okay. Peter?
Thank you.
Yeah, Matt, I think they're great ideas. I love the idea of an old home day. I always thought this town should have one, and incorporate fireworks. I guess I like what Tom is saying. Let's hopefully get into retreat sooner than later, but maybe once we've come right out of that retreat, we can kind of give you direction. But, maybe you and the Rotary want to start kind of having something to present to us as soon as possible too, so we can kind of keep the ball rolling. Maybe while we're getting ready to do the retreat, because I think we all agree here, we want something.
Right.
So, and have something to present and some dates and stuff then, so.
Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And by the way, Matthew, thank you for putting this together. I appreciate it, but I had a very different take as to what we should be doing.
Okay.
July 4th is about the celebration of our independence, our Brexit from King George. And the day is supposed to be celebratory of that particular, our liberties and our freedoms and that kind of thing. And the one thing that stuck out to me is I received 3 different emails from 3 different veterans that were very upset about not being able to celebrate the birth of our country. And the logical conclusion I had is that this community has yet to do a recognition for being a Purple Heart community, that it might be appropriate to have something on Veterans Day weekend where we do a Purple Heart ceremony, where we engage the VFW, the American Legion, Sons of the American Legion. This is a community that's made a commitment to veterans. And I think while it's not the 4th of July, it certainly is a day where we're celebrating not only the freedoms that these gentlemen and women put on the lives for us so that we could celebrate that sort of thing. I also think it would be an appropriate recognition for the veterans of our community who feel a sense of loss of not being able to celebrate the birth of our country. So I would like to put some type of a Veterans Day, and it's November. So to me, my wife would be want to say, it's fluffy sweater weather. It's a great, it's the end of autumn. It'd be a great opportunity, weather's cool, to be able to do that sort of thing. So I really would ask that, as a body, that we consider a Veterans Day weekend of some sort with the fireworks to recognize the veterans of our community, but also to, incorporate the Purple Heart community that we've talked about, and I think that's important as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's a great idea, Bill. Thanks for bringing that up. So we can add that as an option 4 to our discussions and come up with some planning along those lines. Does anybody else have any other thoughts or comments at this point? So Matt, can you just, as Peter suggested, maybe kind of flesh out some ideas a little bit more as far as the home days or Veterans Day type of a celebration?
Yep.
To help us have some background.
Yep.
As we discuss this further, and I really appreciate the work you're doing here. It's
I
awesome.
personally really like number 3.
I like number 3 a lot too, but.
But we still have plenty of time.
Well, we need, and we can do them both. There's nothing saying we can't,
You're
and we should.
absolutely
I mean, I was in town on the 250th.
So was that?
And I
yeah.
remember that there was
They did
some
that.
celebration there, so I'm hoping and planning that we'll do something there, no matter what.
Yep.
Okay. Is that good, folks, for number 1, town reopening plan follow-up discussions? Which brings us into our our additional one here, a discussion of conservation areas and parks in town. And you've all gotten plenty of emails and seen and heard a lot of things, not only about Wildcat Falls, but also about Wasserman Park and Watson Park, and some of the issues that have been going on there with use, overuse, and things like that. What I want to do is invite Gina, I think, is representing the Conservation Commission. Amy Semino is representing the Wildcat Falls neighborhood. The police and fire are here as well to give us the public safety perspective on this, to talk about what we can, should, or how we should go forward with regards to these issues that are going on at the different parks. Specifically at Wildcat Falls Conservation Area, the Conservation Commission met this past, Monday or Tuesday? Monday. Time flies when you're having fun. And made a motion to actually close Wildcat Falls Conservation Area indefinitely until such time as some better controls can be put in place and decisions can be made about how we can manage that property. So, Amy, welcome. Gina, did you want to come forward as well?
Let's listen to Amy's presentation.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay? All right.
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Allowing me to be here for the second time. Again, Amy Semino. And
Do you need water?
this is a collaboration effort again by the neighborhood. And I hope you guys look at this as a way of the neighborhood saying, we really want you to help us out and allow us to have a safe neighborhood again and protect Wildcat Falls Conservation Area. Wildcat Falls Conservation Area, traffic and parking issues escalate. So before 2010, parking concerns started at Wildcat Falls. In 2011, the neighborhood were against the expansion of the parking lot, but unfortunately, the expansion went forward. In 2020, Courier Road neighborhood came together regarding Wildcat Falls traffic and safety concerns. A petition to preserve Wildcat Falls Conservation Area has currently reached 344 supporters. What's next? Courier Road neighborhood continues to speak out. A multitude of letters and calls have been sent to the town and committee members. They share their concerns on social media. Calls have been made to the police and fire department, and volunteers continue to remove trash from the trails, parking lot, and public roadways. To call or not to call? It's the ongoing question. Between March 1st through June 14th, official records show there have been 96 calls to the police from the Courier Road neighborhood. 70 were directed patrol, 20 calls of witnessed illegal activities in just 1.5 months. In addition to the illegal parking, there has been sexual activity, road rage, drug use, harassment, litter, vandalism, fires, noise disturbances, dog waste, and even public urination. So speaking to the Courier Road neighborhood, here are some reasons why others haven't called. I rely on others since I'm not directly affected. I didn't call because I'm so discouraged and I feel like a nag. Didn't call because I didn't think the police cared to do anything. The next several slides will be read by children. You will be hearing portions of letters that were previously sent to town members asking for help and relief from this uncontrolled and escalating problem at Wildcat Falls.
On June 19, 2020, a speeding car from Massachusetts purposely aimed towards a child. The driver jerked his wheel to make the child jump into someone's lawn. A witness said that the car had a few other kids in it and were laughing. Police were notified. My family was ready to take a walk after dinner with the dogs, and we noticed sexual activity in a car parked on Hemlock Street.
I've missed my mail several times due to parking
violators. In addition, my mother got to watch someone jump out of a car after parking in front of my mailbox and urinate my mailbox garden area.
This is no longer a weekend issue. People are walking down the roads with full coolers, inflatable tubes, hammocks, and now putting up rope swings in shallow waters. The traffic, trash, and parking and safety are all major concerns.
Our neighborhood continues to be abused. What does it take to come a permanent solution to give our neighborhood back to us?
Merrimack Town Council, will you support having a safe and respected Wildcat Falls 80 acres and our neighborhood? Or will you continue to support the overuse and infractions happening at Wildcat Falls? I would like to propose a few solutions for Merrimack, New Hampshire. Temporarily close Wildcat Falls to stop the violators and reduce the need for police resources and the liability on the town. Continue with no parking signs on one side for all streets. Publicly change Wildcat Falls back to 80 acres. Residents parking only in parking lot and neighboring streets. These two photos were taken just a few days ago. Please help us live in a safe and peaceful neighborhood. It's what we all deserve. I don't think I actually have to. I think it pretty much tells you what's going on in our backyards and at Wildcat Falls.
And we have received numerous emails, probably somewhere between 15 and 30, from residents in the Courier. We've received numerous emails, probably between 15 and 30, from the residents in the Courier Road area, explaining each of these different aspects multiple times, including a rash of them all saying the same thing, which was to support the conservation areas, the Conservation Commission's motion to close temporarily until we can come up with a better overall solution. And those will be entered into the record as part of this discussion, rather than try and read through all of them, because it would be quite a bit to try and read, and many of them are repetitive.
Understood. Yeah.
But I just want to make it clearly understood by the public that we have received those. Everybody's been receiving them. If I saw them come to me only, I forwarded them. Presumably anybody else did that as well. So we appreciate that there are issues going on. We've been trying to address this issue, creeping into it maybe, as opposed to slamming the door, with the no parking signs and with the various different approaches that we can make. Some things really disturb me, and that is that we have clear ordinances saying that there's no alcohol in any of the town parks or recreation areas or town buildings, and yet I walked down there yesterday.
Yeah.
And there was clearly beer cans all over the place down at Wildcat Falls area, and that's pretty disturbing that that's going on. And I'm hearing in the emails that people are walking down there with coolers of beers and stuff like that. One or two stuck in their pocket or backpack, maybe you could understand, but going down there with the intent to picnic and party and have a beer party or something is just totally against town ordinances. Unfortunately, it's not easy to get down there to police that situation, and so we have an ongoing issue to concern ourselves with. Go ahead.
I also want to add that it's a conservation area, so it's being treated more as a park. And
we call it a conservation area. Technically, it was given to the town as to be used as a park or recreation area. So it's really, by deed, a park or recreation area, but it's being managed by the Conservation Commission. We treat it, or we want to treat it, as a conservation-type area, but it certainly is open to be used as a recreation area. So I understand where you're coming from, but before we get down that set of weeds, let's just try and make sure we stay with the deed and be a little cautious there. Does anybody else want to chime in? Finley?
I'm actually shocked at how people do treat the place, because I've gone down a couple times. I always tell my colleagues I'm a visual guy, I have to say it, and it was very obvious. I witnessed two 12-pack containers, the cardboard containers, under a car, and I was going to put them on top of the car, but I realized it was probably the car next to him, so I left it alone. I just left it there. But it does offend me greatly. And then Watson Park very recently turned into the chaos with the animals climbing on top of the pergola and all the other items down there. Just is surprising. I just couldn't imagine anybody I know doing that. So I do believe enforcement can happen. I disagree with your comments, Tom.
I'm not saying it can't be. I'm saying it hasn't been sufficiently.
Right, and I get it. We're short supplied. Our staff, police staff is busy doing the regular things in town. I consider it a pandemic thing. I'd like to go after some of the 600,000 that Pete was talking about to pay for those things, but that might be a stretch. So I'm interested in hearing comments on the closure, because I'm not opposed to that at this point, unless somebody gave me some good reasons why we might not do that. But so enforcement is something I would be willing to spend some money on, because if you bring in a cooler in, we have bike patrol that can be utilized. They, I mean, we have ways to access the property, and I don't mind people going down and using the falls and having fun down there, but the disrespect is just mind-boggling.
I do have a question for the town council. Are you actually the ones that are to say okay on enforcing down at Wildcat Falls before it actually happens? Because there's a lot of disconnect in the neighborhood whether or not it can be enforced, or is it just patrolled?
Well, the police are here, hopefully can answer that question a little bit better for us. Deputy Lake, wants to know whether you can enforce the town court.
Can you hear me okay? So town ordinances can be enforced.
I think you have to come to the microphone just because you can pull it over there. There you go.
So town ordinances can be enforced by the police department. As Councilman Rothaus indicated, a walk in Wildcat Falls is about a 25-minute walk to go completely to the falls. And it's hard for us to have a patrol officer who's responding to calls to constantly go out there. If we do get a call for service and we do make contact with someone, of course we address the issue. The issue is also, we find the conditions deplorable at all the parks with the littering and such. But it's being able to see someone litter, right? I think we've all been in our own personal cars when we see someone throw something out the window. It's happened to me like twice in my career when I'm in a cruiser, right? Because obviously we're in black and white cars and very noticeable. So the ordinances are enforceable. All our officers have sample complaints on how to write the ordinances. So if they do catch someone, they can write a summons right there. And it's by town charter, it's very enforceable. But it's a matter of getting out there, catching them in the act, because someone possessing alcohol, they might throw in the woods before we get there, such. But bottom line, it's more about catching the act and actually spending resources when our resources are already limited, while we only have 3 people protecting the town of Merrimack with the supervisor.
Sure.
Hope that answers your question.
It does. It's also the enforcement on the roads as well.
So as far as enforcement rules, I know you're aware, unless it's a permanent sign that has been approved by town council, we can't enforce parking issues. We can enforce parking next to hydrants, blocking driveways, blocking intersections. However, those temporary signs, as the town council is aware, aren't enforceable. We've put up our speed spy, which collected data, we've put up our speed signs, and although there's definitely increased traffic, there has been a large number of what we call speeding vehicles. 30 miles an hour is the speed limit throughout the town of Merrimack. Do I think 30 miles an hour is probably the greatest speed going through a neighborhood? No, I do not, but we can only enforce the 30 mile an hour speed limit. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Gina, do you want to talk to us about the Conservation Commission's presentation? Do we have another chair or not? To put on opposite sides? I know they have to stay 6 feet apart, but the thing is 6 feet.
Thanks again, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, Amy.
Fine.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Amy. I know, Justin, I could hire you.
We're getting those dispensable wipes. Pretty soon it's on the list.
It is.
Should send Justin down to Kids Cove.
That's overtime.
That's a lot of
There you go.
overtime.
Good answer, good answer.
We do have that grant money, right?
Outside the line of duty.
You all said you got it.
I'm stuck. Okay, thank you so much for adding us to the agenda on such short notice. I felt really bad asking that, and Barbara, thank you for encouraging me. to put that in.
You need to either pull the mic a little closer or speak up just a little louder, please.
I am Gina Rosati from the
Thank you.
Merrimack Conservation Commission and also the ex officio of the Wildcat Falls Subcommittee. So, in addition to thanking you all for adding us, I have a few other people that I would like to add, I would like to thank specifically the Wildcat Falls Subcommittee members, Karen Labonte, Liz Patrides, and Andrew Duane. And I'd also like to thank the Currier Road and surrounding neighborhood residents, as well as those from the Indian Rock neighborhood, who have been picking up so much litter, as well as the Cameron brothers, who were on Facebook today, and they had a big giant bag of litter, and they said that they were going to go back because the bag was bursting. So I want to give a call out to those guys and thank them too. I had a whole big speech prepared and everything that I wrote down, but I'm going to get right into this nice presentation that Tim Tenhave made, because I think you guys all know what we're here for. So, without further ado, whoops. I have no idea how to use PowerPoint, so just please bear
Just
with me.
should be the up and down arrows or something.
All right, so. Okay, there's the first page. I think I just took it out of from the beginning. There we go. Okay, so the charge from the town council on April 23rd from your draft minutes was to make the request of the Highway Safety Committee and the Conservation Commission to review the situation with the traffic overflow in the neighborhoods surrounding the entrances to Wildcat Falls, Greater Woods, Horse Hill Nature Preserve, and report back to the town council. I'm just here to talk about Wildcat Falls tonight. The commission met on May 19th, heard from staff and the public, and then provided our recommendations, which were: the commission voted to bring a name change recommendation to the town council, reverting back to its original name of 80 acres to de-emphasize the falls aspect of the property. We will request an agenda item for a future town council meeting to discuss this recommendation. The commission voted to remove the webpage on the merrimackoutdoors.org website for Wildcat Falls and remove all visible information on the property for the time being, as well as to reduce publicity of the property. The commission voted to recommend removal of any signs on the property and at the intersection of Currier Road and the Babuzik Lake Road that says Heritage Trail and point toward the parking lot. The commission agreed to and reached out to the school board and administration and asked for their participation in a meeting to discuss access to the property from existing trails at the high school. An initial meeting occurred with the desire to work with the MCC in the town, but expressed concerns. The district would like a solution to be planned as part of their site planning activity that is on its warrant for a vote on June 23rd. So this particular recommendation will not happen in the long term. There was also recommendation for no parking signs, which were done on the left-hand side of the road. So significant issues continue. All spots often fill with spillover to the neighborhood streets. There's parking in the no parking zones. There's trash, which is prohibited by Chapter 111. Let's see, I'm gonna see if there's my mouse. So here we can see that in the parking lot, this is taken from the gate looking out towards Currier and Hemlock Street. So you can see the there's 15 lots, 15 parking spaces in this lot. So you can see those are taken up on the left. On the right-hand side, what you really can't see is there are no parking signs, but cars are parked there. Possibly we could get an emergency vehicle down there, maybe. Over here you can see DPW in response to a letter showing overflowing trash, and it was just getting ridiculous because people were taking a week's worth of trash out of their car and dumping it into this trash can. So we said, let's make it like the rest of the conservation commissions for the most part and make it carry in, carry out. So as you can see, the people visiting don't like that. Over here, you can see some little nip bottles, so clearly people are bringing alcohol in. Over here, here's the cool new rope swing that somebody put in. They actually took the time to post, swing at your own risk. So they made a little homemade sign, swing at your own risk. Over here, this is looking from Currier Road and Hemlock into the parking lot. You can see this blue car here trying to maneuver to get out. It would be a little tricky to get an emergency vehicle down here, I believe. Over here, you can see by the picnic bench that someone had a fire going here. Over here, you can see this person here is jumping off the rock. And then you have other people. This is to the, I want to say Tim said this was to the west of the falls. But this, I don't know if you can see, there's a guy standing over here and this person jumping. I don't know how deep it is there, but I don't know. I've heard reports of people walking down with a 30-pack on their shoulder. So I'd be a little concerned with people drinking beer and jumping off those rocks. And then over here, this is just, these are the temporary no parking zones. And this just basically shows that people are still parking there. So there were or are warning signs saying don't swim. Chapter 111 prohibits fires. And the other problem that we are having is we were having problems with trail erosion before. The trails are extremely eroded and they do need time to heal. So the discussion for tonight is that the commission has been charged with management of the property, but ownership is with the town and the town council. So management, the commission, strongly recommends immediate action and follow-up action. So immediately, the town council is recommended to close the entire property until further notice. Erect signage at the parking lot and around the property to indicate the property is closed to everyone and violators may be charged with trespass. To block the entrance to the parking lot, but ensure emergency access is provided. To place a police detail at the parking lot for the first 3 weekends with officers educating the public that the property is closed until further notice. Have police bike patrols continue to enforce the closure and educate the public. Make a press release, add notice to the town website and any other communication to announce the temporary closure. And follow-up action would create a committee to address the situation and return to the council with a proposed solution to the problems being experienced now. The committee would include members of the council, commission, staff, and interested parties. Enact committee recommendations and reopen the property when ready. So why take this action? The commission has management of the property, but not the neighborhood or the neighborhood streets. Inappropriate parking, safety concerns, and questionable behavior happening in the neighborhood. This closure action removes the reason for most people to be in that neighborhood, results in likely immediate relief to the neighborhood, and the neighborhood supports this action. The behavior is in violation of the Town Code Chapter 111. This closure action stops that behavior. The property is suffering with no time or ability of the commission to encourage recovery. Trash and dog waste is being left behind. Trail abuse, unauthorized trails, riverbank impacts, unauthorized picnic places being created, disruption of normalcy for the residents of the property, and also of the wildlife, plants, and insects. So the commission is committed. The commission will support and participate with the committee. The commission will put our money where our mouth is. We've already approved to pay for signage if needed. We will help erect the signage and educate our police to enable successful patrols. We will pay for the police detail at the parking lot, even if it means overtime is needed. We ask the town to cover police patrols as it is done now, and we will add notice to our Merrimack Outdoors website. Thank you for this immediate action and follow-up. Does anyone have any questions?
Nancy?
I don't have any questions. I think what's going to probably happen now is a discussion about all of the ramifications, what options we have, the pros and cons, that kind of stuff. Because I think all of us are probably pretty well versed with.
That's why
I watched the meeting. I know Tom watched the conservation. Barbara, you did too. So I think we've all educated ourselves as to all the issues. Now it's just we have to deliberate.
Shall I shut down, or?
No.
Okay.
Does anybody else have questions? So, the area has several access points, and you're talking about being able to put signage up at all of them and find some way to block or indicate closure of the conservation area?
We would need signage on Babuzik Lake Road, coming both east and west, so that people can see it. We would need signage.
On the Lake Road?
Babuzik Lake Road, so that
Oh.
people don't even take that turn onto Curry Road.
Oh,
So
okay.
we'd be putting signs up there. We would need signs at the parking lot entrance. I personally, I don't recall us discussing it at the commission, but I personally think that we would need it down around the high school, and make sure that the Merrill's Marauder Bridge is also closed down. Do you remember if we discussed that, Pete, to put it at the high school and at the bridge?
Well, that footbridge is closed.
The footbridge is
but
closed.
behind the high school is
Yeah.
not.
Mhm.
I know that there's three access points that I think of, and that's the school, Clear Road, on the other side of the river.
Your mic is not on?
Apologize, it's not even near me
You need to
because
talk
the
to
cord
the
is
mic.
short. So, but there's the 3 points, and it's Edward Drive, I think, I'm not even sure. But there is a right-of-way that goes down to Wildcat Falls from the opposite
You're
side.
thinking West Chamberlain. Edward Drive.
Edward Drive down in that neighborhood, yes.
Right.
And,
That, I don't think that's
That's
a
on the other
public
side of the river,
access. I
right?
think that's private, and that's on the other side. You still have to go down and go over the Merrill's Marauder Bridge.
That's where I live.
Right.
And that, if you close down, well,
If you're going to join us, you're going to have to come up to a mic.
sorry. That's exactly, is this on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's exactly what I was thinking. If they close the public side, we're on the private side, and already we're starting to see a couple of the cars on the side of the road. Because, I'm sorry, they can get to the falls from the private side.
And I've believed that was, it's a narrow right-of-way, I believe.
It is a
And-
narrow right-of-way.
And it's not, that little narrow piece is a public access point, so.
Right, it's
That's
a
why I
public.
think a sign there would be
And
necessary
I
as
think
well.
there is a sign that says no one is allowed, or it's not a trail or something, but there would have to be no parking signs on the, because I think you're just going to push people over to the private side, and they're going to come down that way. And when we first moved in, that was the issue. I mean, we had cars all the time, and whenever there's an accident there, they park in our driveway to get down, because that's the easiest way to get to the falls.
I used that path all the time when I was a lot younger.
That-
So,
Yeah.
Not anymore. You don't have to
Yeah.
worry about me.
It's gotten a little overgrown, but, so if you're going to close the public side, you're going to have to put signage on the private side as well.
All right, so I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm counting at least 6 signs here.
And I'm guessing we're going to need more than just signs, but, any-
What are the things that they have at Watson Park? Some sort of orange thing to, well, no, it's
Well, no, you're
it's
thinking-
to block off so people can't park.
oh, the blockage they put on the street there, so they
Yeah,
don't
but
pull off on the grass?
I thought they
Yeah.
were bigger than just a regular cone.
No, what we used at the MYA building was like a barricade, a high barricade.
Yeah.
That's, I guess, what she's talking about.
I mean, we can put stuff like that out. It isn't going to stop somebody from walking around it, but it will make it at least obvious enough that hopefully they'll read the sign and realize that they're trespassing.
Well, and I guess the question is, what's going to be the fine if they trespass? $1,000? I mean, there was a, I remember we talked about $1,000.
Right, Peter?
Well, I think that, if we put up the accurate signage, and especially in the first few weekends, you have a police officer there. The park is closed, we've signed it, we've blocked it off. If somebody goes past that sign and disobeys it and disobeys a police officer, that's criminal trespass, or at the very least, disorderly conduct. And those fines are spelled out in those RSAs. Okay, so if it's a violation, it's up to $1,000 fine. But if it's a misdemeanor offense, it could be more. So I think those in and of themselves, or take care of themselves, those issues. But yeah, this council does have to work on creating a penalty for this ordinance as well as many others. But to me, you know, and that would be something we need to do right away, because it's going to take at least 3 meetings to get it approved, correct?
If we're changing the ordinance,
We're
yeah.
changing the ordinance.
Changing the ordinance. So, but the police could fall back on criminal trespass and disorderly conduct.
Is your mic on, or did they just
it's
leave
on.
my light on?
It's on, I'm sitting too far
Okay.
away. But, you know, so those fines would cover that. It doesn't mean, you know, you have to charge everybody, you can give warnings. You know, Wendy brought up a good point. I recall when those issues arose in her neighborhood, we were going down there. We were going down there at night. We were taking names and we were issuing warnings, written warnings the first time. And if they came back, they were getting summons. Or they could have been arrested because they disobeyed a lawful order. So, I mean, this department, the police department's done this before. It's a little more work. It's directed patrols. It's logging these things in. You know, but it's documenting it, and it's having a presence at the beginning, a very strong presence for a while, to let people know we're serious about this.
Right.
So, so that, as far as I kind of digress, but as far as the answer is, there are fines, there's criminal laws that address this.
Barbara?
Yeah, because that was my question on how are we going to block the entrance, because these people are tenacious. If what we're seeing at Watson is any indication in what we're seeing over there at Wildcat, these people are tenacious. They don't care. And in my mind, if the signs are there and they're posted, they don't get a warning. The sign was the warning. They get it. And we need to have something there that's either a chain or something that's across that entrance that clearly defines that it's closed, and if you go beyond it, you're going to get ticketed, and you're going to get fined. So I think, you know, there are no warnings in this. There's very clear and obvious barricades, and hopefully they won't move them like they moved the boulders down at the river. And I also think you're going to need more than just at the main entrance. You're going to need to take care of the one at the private way, and you're going to have somebody over at, what's the other one? The high school. Because I don't know how they're finding those other entrances, you know? So, I mean, if they must be townies, or I don't know.
High school kids will know exactly.
Oh, well,
how to get
exactly,
across.
you know, find some friends
One-
and figure it out. But in the meantime,
One problem with going from the high school is that you are accessing the New Hampshire DOT land before you're accessing Wildcat Falls. I don't believe that we have any authorization over that DOT land,
And they won't. No, I'll wait till my turn.
so.
You're right.
You want to add something? Go ahead.
Well, only if Barbara's done. I've done a lot of thinking, as everybody has. I think, yeah, I think we have to be able to, my philosophy is we need to stop the momentum.
Yes.
Because that's what this is.
Yes.
None of us, I don't believe, is saying a permanent stoppage. Neither could we according to the deed, because we've looked at the deed and it's clear. We can do a temporary, but we can't do a permanent. But I also think we have to be realistic. The high school kids are going to find a way in. We cannot go absolutely nuts over, and that's not giving them permission. But we also have to be realistic. High school kids have been sneaking in there and jumping off those boulders for longer than I've lived.
Yeah.
So I think we have to acknowledge that it's not going to be perfect. But what we can do is establish things that slow down, make it uneasy and inconvenient.
Yes.
That there's no parking spaces. There's
Exactly.
not that kind of thing.
Yes.
And all the signage. And you have to acknowledge that there are people that are still going to be dropped off and walk in. But we're going to cut it. And in the meantime, start considering long-term things.
Yes.
This would be a temporary thing. And I have to emphasize this. We're going to get calls from citizens if we decide to close it. I'm a taxpayer. How dare you prevent me from going to something that I'm paying for? And they're right. It doesn't mean we still don't do it, because this is a no-win situation here, okay? They have the right to feel that way. It doesn't mean we still can't make that decision, okay? And I also want to emphasize, that includes the neighbors. If you are sitting next to the parking lot at Wildcat Falls, and we decide to in fact close the park, that includes you. And if you go in, you get the fine, and you're trespassing too.
Understood.
The most important thing is consistency.
Right.
And that's what the police need to know.
Right.
That we have their back, that yes, there's going to be an expectation, but it has to be consistently applied, including the neighbors.
Exactly.
That's important for me to get across.
Barbara?
And if nothing else, at least hopefully we have deterred some of the out-of-state traffic that we're seeing, because
You gotta be
I know you're
careful-
seeing it there as
You
well.
gotta be careful though, Barbara, because a lot of complaints about Massachusetts plates. There's a lot of people who live in Merrimack who have Massachusetts cars from their work. So people make a lot of judgments about Massachusetts cars, and that's not accurate. And we also need to be careful. It's not a residence only. If it is, we'll get into that later. But we can't get into the them, us kind of mentality. Our issue is safety, cleanliness, the condition of the parks. That's the issue. That's what we have to hold on to. Because in the future, those people will have the right to come back as well. So whatever we decide to do has to really be based upon safety, following the ordinances that we have, maybe developing new ones that will be good for the long term.
Yes.
Consideration of parking, residents or not, expanding the parking lot, yes or no. Those are longer term issues, but we really have to focus on the interim with the purpose of maintaining safety and controlling the litter and the trash and all that.
Yes.
And we do have to talk about Watson. I'm going to bring that up before the night's over.
Absolutely. Peter?
Yeah, and I think all good points made, but I think what we need to do now is make a determination. Are we going to do a vote? Are we going to close Wildcat Falls Conservation Area? And then, right after that, we need to say when are we going to do it? And it's my preference that we do it starting Friday evening, at some point, and then talk about tonight, we get the barricades up, signage start to get up. It's not gonna get all signed up, but and how are we gonna have, the police are gonna get scheduled there, what's gonna happen? I'd like to hear from the deputy chief regarding some short-term and long-term plans to address what I've personally seen over there to be, well, one, violating the evening curfew at the park, the drinking, all the various issues. There's been some good points here. We have a bicycle patrol, we have an OHRV. Those vehicles can get in the park at various times, and I have no problem. I will gladly support if we need to spend a little extra money at this point to address this problem for a period of time. Because as I've heard it, and you all have, that 72 homes in that their neighborhood is being affected, and that is not right. That's a quality of life issue, and I think, and I look at the faces, and I know this council, I know how we all feel. So to me, right now, let's take the step now. Are we gonna make a motion if you want? Okay.
If you give me a second.
Very good, Tom.
I asked the police and fire to be represented as well, and I'd like to be able to hear from them before we make any definitive steps.
Would you like
So
to
if
sit here?
Deputy Levesque, if you could come up and, you've heard a lot of the suggestions and recommendations, if you could give us the police department's perspective on this.
Thanks for allowing me to speak. First, Chief and I are very empathetic to all the residents up there. They're going through something that we haven't seen before, and it's basically a combination of, the pandemic, the hot weather, the fact that it's out there now. So of course, we're very concerned. And we also think it's deplorable conditions that these people are leaving these places, including Watson Park. Like I spoke earlier about the littering, that's something that we have to see them do. However, we just want to make sure that our Chief and I's number one concern is the enforcement aspect of it. We came before the town council last budget session and asked for officers to indicate that, it indicated to you folks that we need more resources, and you guys graciously allowed us to put 2 more officers on. We're still 2 down from the during this current fiscal year. Obviously, if we go the ultimate route of, closing down the park, it's going to create calls for service for us. we have to prioritize our calls right now. I know some residents mentioned earlier about us not responding in a timely manner. Just to put it in perspective, over the last 3.5 weeks, we're averaging 14 arrests a week. In the month, from March 17th to end of April, there were only 16 arrests. Our calls for service have increased a lot. We have to prioritize our calls by, if we're going to an accident, it's going to take two officers, domestics, 3 officers. On Tuesday, we had a situation where we had 5 officers involved, 3 arrests, and a handgun. So all these things add up, and I can appreciate Councilman Albert's thoughts of directed patrols, but we also have to be able to, afford someone the opportunity to get out there without affecting the calls of service, because as of right now, as the residents have heard before, we have 3 assigned sectors and a supervisor on. That's 3 officers protecting a town of nearly 30,000 people. I wish Wildcat Falls was in a different location, such as Watson Park, where it's quite visible, it's easy to access, but as you all know, it's quite a journey to get out there. And if we're going to be sending officers out there in the middle of the night to deal with people that are drinking, it's going to have to be 2 officers at a time for their safety. And I can appreciate the OHRV, however, that makes a lot of noise and usually people will take off by then. As far as I did reach out to other communities around here that did close conservation areas and see what their enforcement aspect was, and they didn't have any enforcement of the closures. What they did is they proper signage and blocking off entrances. They had signboards up there indicating that the park's closed, that your vehicle may be fined or towed, which is allowable if you're parked next to a fire hydrant, blocking someone's driveway, blocking the intersection by RSA. So I just want to make sure we're cautious what we're doing and realizing that we hope there's no enforcement needed. We really don't hope there's none. Hopefully enough to say, you know what, they're serious, they're gating it off, they're putting the signboards up there, they're putting the no trespassing signs up. And hopefully we don't have to enforce anything. Because I don't want to be in a situation like Nancy said, where there's a resident in town, saying this is my right, this is my right, this is my right. You're absolutely right, the criminal trespass, disorderly conduct, they refuse to leave is an enforceable offense. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Our officers have a lot of discretion they have to use, and hopefully we don't ever have to. I don't want to be sitting on a headline that we arrested a 60-year-old man for going to a park. I think we would all agree that's not going to be a good look on Merrimack. Merrimack should be a welcoming community, and like I said, I can understand the concerns. We're trying the best we can to deal with what we have for resources, but I just caution, where we go from here. The no parking signs, we addressed those at Highway Safety Committee, and basically it was determined, which side is the right side to be no parking on? Is it fair to one side of the residents? Do they want these metal signs in front of the yard? We are bringing forward to you shortly, after we meet one more time, is that we're going to post no parking in the apex of the curve on Hemlock so emergency vehicles can get through. The long-term solution, Councilman Albert, I believe, honestly, is probably increase the parking size, like I said, because I don't think it may slow down after the pandemic, might slow down after all the heat. However, we had a similar situation on Horse Hill Nature Preserve, where people were parking along Amherst Road. It became a safety concern due to visibility, and we haven't seen that at all again, which is great. So that's the response right now from us, and we'll obviously support whatever you guys do. Any questions for me?
Is it possible to get off-duty officers to work overtime to monitor the parking lot for the first couple of weekends and things of that nature? Or can we?
It's possible. There has to be availability of the officers.
But we do that quite frequently. We have people offered overtime or off-duty time that they can come in to do something like that, where they would be dedicated to dealing with the park and they wouldn't be called off to
Correct.
To do service because they wouldn't be on in a sector or something like that.
Correct.
That's what the Conservation Commission has offered for the first 3 weekends to come out of the conservation budget. And I suspect the town council might be willing to boost the overtime necessary to support some of that effort at Watson or at Wasserman as well, including additional work at Wildcat Falls. But I wanted to see if
the availability of officers is the key, though, because obviously we can't force them.
No,
I think this
understand
weekend might be tough, too, especially as we post 4th of July. I think people have plans and vacations, so that'd be a concern. I just want to mention, too, about the posting the entrances. There's a lot of ways to access that property.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
There
And
are
there's
trails
no way
upon
we can stop.
trails. So I just want to make sure that we're clear that someone might slip through the gap if they didn't get to the posted sign.
And that's going to happen.
It's going to happen, but we're trying to stop the folks going down
I
there with
agree.
coolers of beer
Like
and
Councilman-
starting fires and stuff
Councilwoman
like
Harrington
that.
said, you know, to stop the big flood.
The
But there are going to be people that
major
are going to be in there.
aggressors, yeah. And you know, if we close it and say nobody can go there, then there's no way to know whether anybody went there. So we have to have some ability for the Conservation Commission, the police officers, and public safety to be able to go down there without, you know, being fined. And I don't know whether they need ID cards or just to be identified by the police officers or whatever to be able to do a patrol of that area or something. But I think we need to make sure we cover our bases as far as that's concerned. Peter?
Deputy Chief, I can't help but feel right now that you're pretty much saying we can't do this. I'm pretty much feel like you're saying, the police department, that this isn't what we should do, it's not a good idea, and I've heard a lot of reasons, I'm listened, and I heard a lot of reasons why you can't do it, okay? I know for a fact that things can be done, and this council here, the chairman has just said, I mean, we're willing to pay have officers come in for overtime to maintain this position. We understand, and I fully and firmly believe that you folks need some personnel, and I've agreed with that over the years, and continue to agree with that. But then we offer overtime, and I'm hearing, well, if they want to do it, if they're available, you know, it's overtime, and it's a situation in this town we need help. Manpower allocation. How many people are sitting in an office and doing other jobs that, you know what, if this is an issue in this community, it needs to be addressed. And I will tell you now that, you know, what are our school resource officers doing? What is our community service officer doing? What are some of our plainclothes people doing? This is a problem. Let's allocate to this problem. Let's have some high visibility and some enforcement for the first time. You know, I'm not for the first time, but for a period of time. You know, and this is how I feel about this. And I think I've listened, and these issues have cropped up over the years for whatever was the cause, the pandemic or whatever. And this is an issue for this community. And we're looking to the police department for some answers and some help. And I get it, and I don't doubt what you say, Deputy Chief, when you say, we're busy out there. And now we're saying to you, we're gonna back you up on that. Tell us what you need and how many hours. Let's hit the peak position, the peak hours with a couple of officers on bikes every now and then. You know, let's move some people around. We're willing, you know, it sounds to me, I know as this council is willing to pay that extra to address this problem right now. So, to me, I'm asking you for a definite plan of strategy, you and the chief, on what we can do to address this. We get it, it's a big park. I truly believe I understand. You're not going to be able to throw a dragnet over it. Everybody here knows that. But some presence, some visibility, some enforcement, it works. It's worked over the years. It'll work on this, and we're willing to give you those extra people to help you, or the extra time.
First, I'd just like to clarify that I never said we weren't going to be part of this, and I thought this was a bad issue. We are going to be part of this. I'm just indicating the issues that we see as far as from our standpoint. Right now, we haven't been allocated any extra money. We have been allocated the extra bodies. So there's not an issue of if we can get out there and help. We want to help. So to say that I'm saying it's a negative, that's not the case at all. I'm just indicating where there's going to be issues. There are going to be issues, and that's where some of the issues I indicated. I can't force an officer to come in, as you're aware, due to union contracts, to come in. I can't force them. We'll make every effort to fill every shift we can, if that's what you guys so direct us to do, but that's what we're going to do. And yes, if we go out there, the officers will address issues if they see them. I'm really hopeful that with a little press and the proper signage, this is going to become a non-issue.
Peter?
Deputy Chief, I don't doubt you when you say that. I know, and the police department, and when we talk about handling these situations, and you said discretion, I absolutely don't doubt that either. I know the people, I know yourself, you'll use good discretion. As far as, I saw a statistic put up, I believe by Ms. Simino, that there were 70 directed patrols. Is that accurate, 70 directed patrols from March 1st? How many directed patrols have been done there?
Those numbers were not accurate.
Okay.
And it might be because she ran it from March March 1st on. I took them from March 17th. So the pandemic began on March 17th, so those are the numbers we were using.
Okay, so how many directed patrols have been done?
55.
55. So from March 17th?
Correct.
Okay. If I do my numbers correctly, and even if I guess, March 17th, we're looking at 3 months, let's say 30 days a month.
Correct.
Okay, 90 days. In 90 days, we can only get through that neighborhood 55 times?
Those are the ones that are actually assigned, where they got out, stopped, and actually called it off. We've been out there for several other times. The complaints, calls for services have only increased by 21 in that time period from last year, and 11 of those are parking complaints. Just so you aware, for calls for service.
11 of those are what?
Parking complaints.
Okay.
Okay, which we all know is the larger the issue. Early on, it was the parking complaints that came out, and now it's the littering, which is disgusting. We agree with that.
And, I guess, again, you were there, but 55 times, add in the parking complaints 80 times in 90 days. There should be a directed patrol in there once every shift. If you shoot 3 times a day, third shift, there's no reason why we shouldn't be by there and logging it in.
Councilman Albert, a lot of the officers do go by multiple parking lots, as you're aware, and they don't log in every time they check in parking lot.
Yeah, maybe they should.
Very good.
Bill?
Peter kind of stole a little bit of my thunder. On one particular point, and that's the SROs. They have the skill set. I mean, we're talking about 2 officers that work with, kids that are maturing or developing maturity, and quite honestly, you run the gambit down there. But the point that I'm getting at is that there's an element of diplomacy that our SROs use in the schools that would be wholly applicable in trying to interact and deal with some of the guests that are using Wildcat Falls. And to me, and this is where I agree with Councilor Albert, I think it's a unique opportunity to redeploy, and it's not my call, obviously, but the way I look at it, it's an opportunity to redeploy two officers that have specific skill set that I think would be invaluable in being able to get in there and begin educating the public that are using these facilities that what they're doing is we appreciate what you're doing, or we don't appreciate what you're doing. It's either going to be one or the other, so.
And I can assure you that those officers are being utilized in investigations that we have that we can't talk about. They have also walked to Wildcat Falls, and they're the ones that indicated that the high school access is largely being used by high school students because they have contact with them.
Okay.
They went out there, they found the rope swing, so they are going out there. But like I said, we are utilizing them in other aspects of investigations as well.
And I'm happy to hear that. To me, it dawned on me this morning when I was out running that I would think that they would be best, not to say that our police officers are not, but I'm just saying because of what we've tasked them to do, it kind of makes sense that we could deploy them to work in this particular type of scenario and attack a problem that we have, so. That was just my immediate thought. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for the deputy chief at this point? Can we ask Matt Duke, if the
Thank you.
fire chief,
Appreciate it.
to just give us an idea of what the fire department sees as issues with respect to Wildcat Falls access and number of times you end up going out there, what kind of problems might occur out there that need to be addressed?
Sure.
So our concerns, of course, are accessing the area promptly, which through working with the police department, we know that they have been cognizant of access issues and have made efforts, taken steps to make sure that we can get there. In the end, we will get there one way or the other. That's not a concern. We will get there. Thank you. Our concerns, of course, far more of a police and enforcement issue than a life safety issue. The same concerns exist whether there are 2 people out there or 20. It's just the likelihood and the numbers of them. The busier the park is, the higher the likelihood of your standard stuff, your slips, trips, falls, twisted ankles, those sort of things. with the hot weather and the types of people that apparently are out there, high school kids, people who may be engaged in drinking and that sort of thing, engaging in more risky behavior, jumping off the rocks, rope swings, things like that. Those are the more high-risk, low-frequency events that we also prepare for. It's just a question of, if and when it happens, we'll deploy the resources that we need, and we'll do the best we can to solve the problem. As far as an increase in number of calls for service for us, we haven't seen really an identifiable increase in calls this year. There was not a ton of calls. We only had 1 or 2 logged calls to Wildcat Falls last year. One of the issues is, and I'll be perfectly frank with you, the way that we catalog our incidents makes it a little bit difficult to identify them. We've taken, I directed the fire marshal today to take some steps to make it easier for us to log those calls and be able to find the data for you. We only know of 1 or 2 responses in 2020, and it took us a little while to find them because the address that it was logged under was an address off of West Chamberlain Road, because that's where our people accessed it from. So we had to do a little searching to find the address, and that's how we're able to query the data and find it. So we're working to improve that, so we'll be able to provide you with better numbers going forward.
Okay, but at least fortunately so far, you haven't seen an increase due to the high usage of the area
Nothing substantial.
in trips or sprained ankles or any of that kind of stuff, or?
No, nothing substantial.
Okay. Bill?
What is the current fire danger in our community?
It's currently a fire danger is a class 2 or moderate. So there's 2 things kind of working against each other. One, obviously the rainfall is very, very low, so so things are dry. That's working against us. The thing that's working for us is the time of season. We've gotten to the point where most of the foliage has filled in and is greened up, and that sort of works in our favor. The green materials don't burn like they would, a couple 3 months ago, or like they would into October, November.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
So is it fair to say that if somebody was manning a barbecue in Wildcat Falls, and if something, God forbid, were to happen, proclivity is the damage might be limited to everything that's 3 feet or below, as opposed to 1 foot and above, is what I'm trying to get at.
If you're asking about like the
Like
possibility of
barbecues and,
Major fires.
pits, major fires versus a minor fire, a brush fire, I mean, I'm just asking for your perspective.
most of what we would see this time of year would be like the lower level burns. It's going to burn the stuff that's on the ground, the dead litter on the ground, dead leaves, grass, that sort of stuff. The green materials are going to burn, but they're going to burn at a much slower rate. So it's not going to spread, like I said, as quickly as it would in, say, early March or late October, early November. So, though one of the things that with it is where it is as dry as it is, the fires have a tendency to go deeper into the ground, and they don't spread as far, but they take us a little more work to get, because we basically have to dig them out we have to dig them out.
I was down there a couple of weeks ago, and, well, I've been down there pretty much as often as I can just to investigate what's going on there. There was one Saturday I was down there that they had parked literally when you come in, all along the left-hand side, right to the edge of the road, and you get the stone, you get the rocks there, and I mean, we're not talking about people that are driving Priuses. We're talking, full-blown, Tahoes, Yukons, that kind of thing. And I don't know how you would be able to squeeze something down there, and then to exacerbate the situation more was that you had a couple people that were parked in front of the fire lanes. So
See,
my
that's
concern.
when you should get tickets for that.
Well, in fairness to Deputy Chief LeVeque, I actually called, and a cruiser was down there in 2 minutes. And I watched them ticket those 2 cars. It made me feel good, because I don't like that. I mean, there's a reason why there's a fire lane there, and this is why the neighbors are here, and this is why we're talking about this tonight. So, anyway, I appreciate, Deputy Chief LeVeque's perspective, your perspective as well, to try to come up with a solution to this problem. So, anyway, thank you for answering my questions,
No
AC.
problem.
Appreciate it.
Happy to.
Finley, did you have a comment?
I was ready to move forward, but I'll wait till everybody's done here.
Does anybody else have any questions of the fire chief at this point?
I do.
Peter, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Chief, and it's kind of, you got me thinking about the conservation itself, your emergency access road out to the actual cliffs, what's the condition of that right now?
Are you referring from the gate to the river itself?
Yeah.
It's very good. It's good.
It's in good condition?
Yeah,
It's in
yes,
very
it
good
is.
condition.
Great condition.
I
Okay.
walked it yesterday.
Good.
We can actually, at the moment, we can drive our utility vehicle, it's a gator, for lack of a better term, from the access gate to the river, and we can go downstream, and we can actually drive that all the way to basically where the steps start
Okay,
up to the falls proper.
I hadn't seen it, so I wasn't sure.
Yep, so it's very good right now.
Yeah, it's wide open. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate your input on that. So where do we move forward, Finley?
Just, if in fact we do decide to close, is this Friday enough time to have signs put together and get everything we need? Or should we just do it and put up temporary signs till we get real signs? I don't know. Paul?
Paul? It'll be quick, but what we could do is we can definitely get the message board out there at Wildcat Falls at the entrance of the parking lot, stating that the parking lot, the park is
Area is
closed, the area is closed. We can get the same barriers that we had at the MYA out there and put out down there as well. That will have that access point closed. As far as the other access points, we will not have enough time to get signs at all those other access points. I do not know in such short notice if the police can put something up and have somebody down there for a police detail over the weekend for Saturday and Sunday, but I'm sure they will try as well there. Noting that as long as the council knows that we will not be able to block off all the access points, and people may be coming in from the high school, and people may be coming in from West Chamberlain area down that way, and just know that it's going to be a work in progress over the next week. And don't forget, the following weekend is July 4th, so we'll try to get everything in place by July 4th as best we can. So I say that if you did do it, we can try our hardest to at least close off that parking lot tomorrow.
Just to finish up, I think that, as Deputy pointed out, that the main entrance in Courier Road, if we can get that covered, if kids are going in through the back entrance, the bulk of the problem is people who are traveling there in their automobile and
they know of
creating
that
that.
entrance, yeah.
Right,
Yep.
so I think if we can at least get that done, the other entrances, I'm not as concerned about immediately.
One other thing we would do right away tomorrow is like we do with our road closures on Google Maps and Apple, whatever, it was the equivalent for Apple. We'd call them and tell them that the park is closed. And that's what they would put it out so that if people are looking for walking trails or water near me, it won't come up, it will show as closed. So can't make any promises, but we will get that out there too as
Do our
quick as
best to get
possible.
that out
Get that out there as well.
Peter, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, hey, I think we all get it. Get those barriers up. If we can get an officer on detail out there, and then as more signage will go up over the next week or two, and we'll start addressing all these to include the Wildcat Falls site. So yeah, and I think it's a work in progress, and I just think the initial having an officer there and the electronic signs and things going saying, hey, this place is closed, is going to make a dent. It's not going to be perfect. I'm sure there'll be some people down by the falls, but it's going to make a dent, I hope.
Lon? You're all set. Nancy?
I just want to make one final statement. We also have to be prepared that there may be people going to other sites, other conservation properties as well as a result. And we're going to have to keep an eye on that because there are other neighborhoods that will be affected as well. So we need to, I'm not suggesting we do anything now,
There's a
But
bigger
it-
picture to deal with.
But
I agree.
acknowledge that there are
Absolutely.
consequences, and we're going to keep abreast of those things as well.
So we have to take a vote.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would move that the town council approve and implement the recommendations made by the Conservation Commission presented on page 4 of everybody's packet tonight that states, we will close the entire property until further notice. Erect signage at the parking lot and around the property to indicate the property is closed to everyone. Violators may be charged with trespass. Block the entrance to the parking lot but ensure emergency access is provided. Place a police detail at the parking lot for the first 3 weekends with officers educating the public that the property is closed until further notice. Have police bike patrols continue to enforce the closure and educate the public. Make a press release, add notice to the town website or in any other communication that may be necessary to announce a temporary closure, and that the council create a committee to address the situation.
Well, let's
That's-
make that separate.
You want to make that separate?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that out. Then it's the 6 bullet points on page 4, Mr. Chairman.
Motion was made by Bill and seconded by Barbara. Nancy?
Would you consider also putting in the officer to be paid by the Conservation Commission?
Thank you for
They
that.
offered.
No, they offered, yes, thank you. Friendly
Be
amendment
careful what
accepted.
you offer.
And thank you to the Concom for that, appreciate it.
Does anybody have any comments or suggestions they want to talk about this motion that's on the floor?
I want to thank the Conservation Commission. I think it's a sensible approach to beginning to attack the program. I like Council Harrington's stopping the momentum. I think that's a great phrase. I think we should hashtag and put it out on Twitter. No, in all seriousness, I think it really, we got to stop the momentum. And I think, the line is at Courier Road. And I think by beginning to put a dent and at that particular location, I think is going to mitigate a good chunk of the issues that the community, the neighborhood has been dealing with, but also some of the things that we've been hearing from our emails and phone calls that we've been getting. So I think it's a good first step and a necessary first step. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Without opening it up for public discussion, are we covered here with what you folks have submitted? Wendy, do you want to make a suggestion?
I would like to make a suggestion. I absolutely, sorry. I agree with the motion that was made. I think it covers everything except for the private side.
Well, the signs are to go all around the park if possible.
So
and
does that
we'll have to
include the
understand-
private side as well?
Absolutely. That's
All right,
part of the park.
and so
part of
what
the
is the
area.
protocol? If the cars that were on the park, the public side, now come to the private side, are we to call the police? Is that the protocol?
If they're parked illegally, absolutely.
Okay, because I think what's going to happen is we're going to get the exact same lines of cars in our neighborhood. You're just going to be moving the problem over to the other side.
To some degree, I agree, but I would also suggest that a lot of these people that are causing this problem are coming here because they're seeing it on a website and they're seeing the Courier Road parking lot as an option to get there. And they may or may not know about the other ways to get in.
And
People in town do know that. They'll use that, and we're trying to tell everybody that we're closing the park, period.
Yeah, no,
And they should stop as well. So,
And this is hypothetical, but if it does, we're going to have to address that, but just be ready to
yeah,
address it if it happens.
it's a law of
that's
unintended
all.
consequences. No doubt we're going to
Exactly.
find things we didn't want or expect. And
Exactly.
It's a fair concern, Wendy.
And I
It's a fair
appreciate your
concern.
Yeah,
No,
no,
I agree.
because I remember the days when we used to have many cars.
Yep.
And I also wanted to remind the council that since we've lived in our house, which it was 28 years now, there have been 3 drownings. That's a dangerous site.
Yep.
And,
That's right.
the people that are jumping off the cliffs, I think you should put "don't jump" signs, because we had one guy, because what
And
happens.
Who's going to pay attention to that?
I
Wendy?
know. So, I
I
mean,
mean,
kids aren't going to.
We have signs that say that you swim at your own risk or something, and I'm almost afraid to have that up there because it almost implies that it's okay.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
but we can't put no swimming signs up because that would cause another uproar.
But yeah, I mean, there's danger down there.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I fully understand that.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
Chief?
Town council to consider, you might want to check on the no parking ordinance at that side by that easement. if that's in the ordinance as an actual sign that was approved by you guys. 'Cause
It
there's a-
already has been?
I'm not sure. I need to do some homework on it, so that's something to consider. I just want to bring
Section
that up.
111.
Yeah, just want to make sure we're aware of that.
All right, thanks.
111.
But did we miss something?
No, but I did want to ask, as far as the signs, we are happy to pay for them, but one of my questions is, you were having a discussion, and I'm just wondering, do we want to decide at some point tonight what will be said on the sign so that I can get those going? Or Paul, are you going to have those going? You'll
I'd
handle all of that?
work with staff.
And you'll send us a bill?
Oh, there we go. I like that.
He likes that idea.
We'll just take it out of your fund,
Fund 53.
but you'll get an invoice.
Oh, it is not account 53. It is not conservation. This cannot be taken out of land use checks. This has to be taken out of the special revenue fund, Fund 51, for those at home. 80 acres. They used to have their own special fund, which used to be 52 for 80 acres. When they changed the name to Wildcat Falls, they asked the council to consolidate that money into Fund 51. I'm sorry, I'm giving everybody a history lesson here. But they asked to have that money sent over there, and it can only be taken out of special revenue. And as of tonight, when I looked, there's about $45,000 in that fund.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So you can go back and say, "Ooh, we saved."
Does it go that way or does it go the other way?
Okay.
I think
I
it
was
goes the
gonna
other way.
say. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right,
Proceed.
thank you. Any other comments from the council?
Just one. Maybe we can hear eventually from the PD regarding, if they need to put a couple of guys out on bicycles and get them through the park on whatever period, Deputy Chief, you want to say, hey, if you can give us help with extra manpower, financing it or whatever, I'd be interested just to hear that and,
I think it's definitely doable, but as you know, it's the end of the fiscal year, and Assistant Town Manager McCallie knows our overtime situation, so that's why it has been limited. So if that's something that
Yeah.
pleases the council, I'm sure we can speak about it.
He
but-
knows that.
We're not done with our discussions either, because we still are going to talk about Watson Park and Wasserman, and we may be asking for additional support there as well, which may end up being overtime directed patrols or something of that nature. So this isn't going to close the discussion on this motion, but we can at least get this motion taken care of and move forward. Seeing no other discussion on the motion to follow the recommendations of the Conservation Commission and immediately close the entire property at Wildcat Falls Conservation Area. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That passes 7-0-0. We'll do our best to get signs, roadblocks, and staff to support that as soon as we can. But
Thank you so
effective,
much.
effective now, the conservation area is closed.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your help
And I've
support.
spoken with Amy, and I've also spoken with Mr. Marone, and I know both of you have communicated to me that you're going to willing to abide by Wildcat Falls being closed. And I hope that you'll work with your neighbors to honor that, because we need to stand in solidarity. If we're going to take Wildcat Falls back, we need for you to work with us to get it done and make it happen. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Gina, great work. Thank you for taking the lead on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Gina.
Okay, so in addition, the concern is some of the trash and negative activities going on at Watson and potentially at Wasserman as well. We some time ago passed a restriction that parking down in the lower end of Wasserman Park was restricted to residents only, and people were either supposed to have placards that they picked up at Town Hall or their town transfer station decal to show that they're residents. And we're hearing, at least in one email from somebody who said that they talked to the attendant that's out down there, and she's been putting notices on the cars, but the cars come back the next day for ones that don't have any kind of indicating that they're Merrimack residents and/or they're out of town. I'm not sure which, but as Paul and I discussed earlier, that the decals say transfer station decals. maybe we change that to just a Merrimack resident decal or a Merrimack decal, drop the transfer station off of it, to make it more usable around town. But I guess, Matt, you're going to help us to understand what the situation may be at
Sure.
either of those two parks.
So I guess we'll start with Watson Park. We've had problems there for a couple of years, several years now. You know, when we put in the fencing, was that last year?
Yes.
That solved some of the problem because at least people couldn't drive all the way across the lawn and, you know, that kind of thing. But as you saw this past weekend, people are parking on the entrance on the lawn. So the police put in some extra barricades and to try and block some of that. But, you know, and I don't know if it's just the combination of the warm weather, the COVID-19, you know, whatever, but they're finding us everywhere, you know. And some of it might be residents, but some of it's not, you know. We don't necessarily know, but it's busy constantly down there at Watson Park. DPW had pulled out the barrels from the park a few weeks ago with the idea of trying to promote carry in, carry out, and that's
Not working.
not working very well. You know, they dump their trash where the barrels used to be. And, you know, so I know DPW has spent a lot of time having to then clean up on Monday morning, you know, in, you know, that park. And we've had to do some at Wasserman as well. And over at Wasserman, you know, we've had an attendant down there 3 years now, because we were having similar problems over there on weekends. And this group had approved that a few years ago, and that's worked fairly well. Although, you know, prior to this year, we were seeing about 100 people a day at Wasserman Park Beach. But for the most part, people were good about it. You know, we would still get occasional, you know, nuisance vandalism at night, you know, after hours, and you know, that kind of thing. But a lot of the major problems have gone away in the last 3 years. But this year, we're seeing on a weekend, you know, 200, 250 people a day now.
Not big enough.
You know, we are, you know, I think somebody made the comment earlier about, you know, there are some Merrimack residents that have Massachusetts plates, and we've certainly seen some of that. Again, we have had our attendant there the last 2 weekends. Now, she is, you know, a civilian. She's not obviously allowed to, you know, issue tickets. She can't, you know, even ask somebody if they're a resident or non-resident. Now, the Wasserman Park Beach has a residency restriction, but she's not allowed to ask them that question.
Why not?
You want to take that?
Please.
I can speak from the police department side of it. We can't just arbitrarily go up to someone and ask them for their residency. We go down there and respond. It becomes a situation where civil rights, you know.
But if you ask everyone the same question.
Correct, but for us to pull all 200 people down
I'm
there.
not talking to you, I'm talking about
I just,
the
I know
attendant.
our police department, when we get called down there, if we get called down there for a call for service, where there's a disagreement, argument, littering, then we can ask for identification and determine it then. We've had calls before where someone suggested they didn't live here, and we can't act upon
No,
those
I
things.
understand that.
So I'm not sure what Matt's staff's
Yeah.
doing, but that's where we come from.
And I buy that, I understand. But it's the
We've been
attendant
directed by the chief and the former chief that attendant can't ask for residency, is what we've been told.
But, may I?
Sure.
Obviously, I've been.
You're going for it. Go for it.
Okay, where does the attendant place themselves?
She floats between two places, the resident parking lot at the bottom of the hill to the waterfront itself, so that she's keeping an eye on kind of that whole area. Now, within Wasserman Park, obviously, you've got multiple ways to get down. Some people come down the road, some people come down the trails
From the
from, you
parking
know,
lot.
and so she's kind of a floating target to do that. But it's been made clear to us several times that she can't go up and ask them if they're a resident or not, or if they're even a company, because the rule says that you can be either a resident or accompanied, you know, a resident can accompany you, you know, so you can bring your non-resident family member, for example. But we've been told that we can't actively ask every person if they're a resident or not and can't kick them out.
Do you have an answer to it?
Well,
I mean, I can,
I
as
have a
long as you
suggestion.
can, as long as you can, my opinion, you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. As long as you ask every single person, you can't selectively say, well, you look suspicious, I'm gonna ask you. But if every single new group, okay, can someone in this group, are you a resident? No. Well, I'm sorry, you can't say. But they have to be consistent. If you don't do it consistently, then you're right. You get into the civil rights
You
issue.
can't profile.
But if you ask everybody, I don't care if I know you. I don't care if I know you. When you come down, you need to verify that you're a resident. But you know me. I'm sorry.
I'm treating everybody fairly.
I'm treating everybody.
Peter?
Okay. Matt, and I know we've gone through this before, and I suggested, I think it was last year. And now we don't have the camp, and some kids didn't get jobs, or college kids didn't get jobs. What about having one of your monitors sit at the residents-only parking lot in a chair with an umbrella, and as people pull up, sir, do you have do you have a sticker? Can you show me that you live here? Oh yeah, here's my license, I live here. Great, or I have my sticker. No, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have you to park up there. And then, let's have a second individual who actually is down by the water, walking around just looking for infractions. I mean, some
Beer, glass bottles, any of those kinds of things.
beer, glass bottles, things like that. And just kind of monitoring things. And my question to you is, are we only doing it on weekends, or are we doing it throughout the week?
Right now, it's only been on the weekends. I had made a suggestion to the town manager to look at 7 days a week, both there as well as at Watson Park, to, if nothing else, picking up trash, so that we're not having DPW spending Monday mornings cleaning up those sites.
So to me, I'm good with it being throughout the week. I mean, all the personnel we're not paying for the camp, have that extra person, and just that one person is at the top of right there, checking who's a resident, who's not at the residents-only parking lot.
Well, they're not supposed to be able to use the park. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
They're not supposed to be able to use the beach if they're not a resident. Correct. So even if they're parked at the top, they're not supposed to be able to come down. And the problem is, it's not a big beach. So
No,
really,
it's a very
that was
small
the
beach.
argument that we really pushed, that we did the residency, because it's not big enough for everybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well,
I
mean,
concur with you.
There must be, at some point, if it were that big a crowd, we must have to call maybe the fire department to come down and say, is this an unsafe crowd? Is this an unsafe amount of people down here? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you measure.
If we maintain
beach.
the residency, that's not going to be a problem.
Can we,
Paul's back
Paul? A couple things. It's open space, and I understand your point about a beach, and as long as they're not crowding on the beach, they can basically spread out from the beach and go almost all the way down to the theater, and there's no limit of the number of people in the park, as I am aware, from the fire department on outside. So that's a little bit more difficult. We can do the social distancing and the 6 feet and things of that sort. And Councilor Harrington, you're correct. That's one of the reasons why you did make it a residence only. I want to correct something that was said about funding. Yes, we do have staff that we didn't hire for the park, for the day camp. Those individuals that we didn't hire for the day camp get paid from the day camp, which is a separate revolving fund, which is totally separate. So if we do hire these people, it's going to come directly out of Matt's budget, and the council needs to be made aware that there is not money in Matt's budget for this to do. It's a stretch to say it's COVID now related to get reimbursement from the state out at $607,000. So I can try. You can try everything, but I think it's a stretch there. So we are starting a new fiscal year in 5 days, actually 3 days, for budget purposes, for salaries. But that's just something the council needs to be made aware of, that if you do want those positions to go. The other thing is, in no disrespect to anybody Matt would hire, they are not in a police uniform, they're not with a badge, they're sitting there, and somebody comes in and they say, hey, do you have XYZ? And they just blow right by them, they're gonna pick up the phone and get the police involved, and now the police have to come down, and it, you know, then they have to do their trespassing or whatever, but now they have to get the police involved too there, because people, and it's not a problem, I'm just saying that there might be more calls for service from the police department to come down now, and there might be a need for some overtime for maybe somebody in the police department to deal with something like that, because if we only have 3 people in sectors and we just closed Wildcat Falls, now we only have Wasserman and Watson open, and you get a complaint at Wasserman and you get a complaint at Watson, and we have 3 people on, we're down to 1, plus a supervisor.
I just want to clarify that we've only had a few calls down there, and we respond right away, and it's not an issue for us responding down there. And typically, the easiest thing for us to do when there's a large group, and the safety aspect of it is just say, move along, and that's the message, you know, so just want to make sure that we're clear on that we will respond to the calls down there.
I'm not saying you won't respond, I'm just saying that there, you know, could be, stretching, if there's only 2 people, we might have to give the police, especially on the weekends, maybe a 4th patrolman that's in patrol during this peak hours of the day.
We can see.
So we can see.
Finley?
I just can't imagine us solving this type of thing tonight, how we're gonna be able to confirm that they're a resident doing it legally and all the other things. So I don't know for tonight what will bring this to a conclusion, but I think that's something that we have to have another conversation about. Because there's gotta be a way to enforce it, you know, when it becomes a problem. If it's not a problem, then I could care less, but it's a problem, so, but I don't know, you know, I mean.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's that big of a problem. There's certainly one resident who felt like it was, and there's been some banter or talk about, you know, we keep telling these people. And then some people say, they go down there and they get this nasty note on their car. Well, that's probably a dramatization. I don't think, I'm hoping the note's not nasty that she's been putting on the cars.
It basically just states what the park ordinance says, which is, you know, it's residents or their guests only, you know, you can, if you park here, particularly with the parking lot, if you park here, basically you can be fined. And so it's just that official wording from the ordinance.
Yeah. So I think the solution that we can come up with tonight is to suggest or approve overtime or additional staffing, whether it's police, which would be very expensive, or hiring some additional park attendants, if you will, and giving them a radio so they can get to the police dispatch easily. That can just help monitor, and if they find or see drinking, glass bottles, trash and littering, they can at least inform people nicely so that they don't get into a fight with anybody, that's against the rules, and that it's a carry in, carry out. The other thing we could consider is whether or not we want to put barrels back out there and drop the carry in, carry out, because it's not working. So those are the things I was hoping we could discuss at tonight's meeting, to try to come to an improved situation. Barbara?
Yeah, Watson and Wasserman have some of the same issues and some very different issues. You know, the 2 issues I see at Watson, because I spend the most time there with my dogs. So the problem I see at Watson is the people are throwing garbage around, but usually the garbage is in a pile, or they've stuffed it alongside the porta potty, because the other side is where the barrel used to be. So I think that there is an attempt to at least contain it, and I think what ends up happening is some of it blows around. Of course, there are the dropping, you know, the garbage that gets dropped along the way, including the underwear I picked up on Sunday. But I think the carry in, carry out is not working at Watson. If they can put the barrels back in, and not just one, you better put several, I think that will relieve some of the issue with the garbage. It won't relieve the issue with the fact that I saw 4 cartons of the 30 can size of empties hanging around the park Sunday night.
Was it down by the water?
No, well, I suspect that it was originally down by the water because they were up the hill back in the park level. And then there are those people, you have to make a decision. Do you mind that there are people who are camping out with their sunshades and tarps over their little camp area out on the rocks? That's another decision to make. But those are the two decisions I see there.
On the sandbar.
On the sandbar across the way where the rocks
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
Is
They-
there something wrong with that?
No, I'm just saying.
I mean,
We have no swimming posted, so.
Yeah, when you,
Right?
go ahead.
Good, Peter?
Yeah, the sandbar issue we went over years ago, and the town has no authority in the river. It's the Sauhegan River, I forget their full name, and we reached out to them and told them about it, and they kind of said, yeah, not a lot we can do about it. So, yeah, I saw the same things too, and then, you know, I bet you we'll see the grills left out there in the middle of the sandbar by the end of the summer.
And that, again, my concern is, that's gonna be a consequence of closing Wellcat. Oh, well, there's this place. But I have a suggestion. It's kind of severe, but it's almost, you can tear it down. We have the opportunity to get free fencing, right, Paul? The fence itself. The fence itself. To be able to put, now just hear me out, because I don't like the idea either, but it's better than nothing.
I'm already feeling bad, but go ahead.
If I
A
did, I
fence.
didn't mean for it to say.
I'm preparing myself for, no. It's 5 foot, I believe, because of Paul and I, 5 and 4. To go and put the fence against and all the way down as a temporary measure, because it is the water that is the draw. If you don't have access to the water, a lot of the issues
I
are
agree.
going to be resolved.
I agree.
Now, will it not be pretty? Correct. However, we're going to be doing that whole realignment at some point with the TAP grant and all that.
Yep.
And the fence that's there now is going to be taken down. At that point, we can talk about what you talked about, Peter, because he had made a comment, he'd been in Peterborough, I believe it was,
Peterborough and Milford have done a beautiful
that they have
job.
a similar kind of situation that they've been able to make nice with rocks, but not making it easy to get down there. So I'm perceiving this as a temporary issue to decrease the draw to the water. Now, will they go across the street to the fire station to be able to go around? Well, maybe, but you're not going to be able to do it well often, because people in the office will say, hey, there's some. Will they try to get the other side of the bridge? Maybe. But by far, the majority of the draw is going to be stopped. And in the meantime, we have plans in the future. This is a temporary issue. It's a temporary cure, and we deal with much better, more aesthetic plans in the future when we do the grant. That's my thought. Now you can tear it apart.
I'm not going to, I agree with you.
Actually, I like it.
I like it, I agree with you.
Yes, ma'am.
My only concern and what I would envision happen, it is not going around, they're either gonna climb the fence or they're gonna cut it.
Well, then,
But in very, quickly, that's what I would envision happening.
then they're going to have to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
It-
It
So
hasn't
are
been
we.
done before. I mean, we've had issues
Well,
when the skateboard park is
so-
closed, for example, and people have cut the
Can they
fence.
climb over? Yes. Will it deter some of them? Yes.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
You can always keep the good guys out.
Well, but
I
will,
mean, and they're the guys that are always going to suffer, right? The people
but will
that are
it cut
not
the
gonna
numbers
be-
down so that you can view it more easily?
If there's
That's
3
all.
people down there as opposed to 20, you're not going to see the 3 people, but those are the ones that are going to cut the fence and go through. I mean, I don't know.
Just a thought.
Do you want to jump in on that,
No,
Finley?
I suppose they probably go up to Connell's as I'm thinking about it, to park. But I think we should tighten up the fence up where we put the barriers recently because of the, what went on with the parking, just pulling into every grass piece when you drive down into the park, Watson Park. And then, because I'm not really crazy about the fence idea.
I know.
No offense. And,
No, I'm not
No
taking.
offense about the fence.
And so I think if we do that, it limits the parking. I don't want to make the parking any bigger. What we have now is more than enough. And it would help, I'm sure, again, they're going up to Connell's to park likely, but I don't have a problem with them being on the sandbar. I know I'm not condoning it, I don't want them to do it, but that being said, I don't care about it. Setting up a little tent to keep the sun off you and you're grilling. But I don't know. Limiting the traffic, if we could do that and keep the place cleaned up, I agree with the barrels, put the barrels back.
Try that
Something a little bit more pleasing, or a little barrier to hide them a little bit, whatever, but
See, Pete, you lose some.
that's where I am. Not that that's anywhere.
Paul?
I agree that the trash is a problem down there. And it seems like an easy solution to put barrels out. But just like what was happening at Wildcat Falls, with people emptying out their cars, it'll happen at Watson Park. We're gonna start seeing people, because they see a barrel, get rid of tires. It has happened in the past. I'm not making this up. Last time we had barrels down there, and even at Wildcat Falls, people had tires that they didn't want to pay $2 at the dump, and they say, I'll fix them, and they drove over and dropped them near one of the barrels that we had at a field and things of that sort. People are going to do that. We can try to put the barrels out there. That, you know, it's a matter of then picking them and bringing them and dumping them into a truck and then bringing it to the transfer station. I understand that's part of their job, but you gotta remember now, if a barrel is full, these guys it's not like we got Buckley's in there with their lift to be able to pick up a barrel and dump it in. We have to have guys pick it up and dump it into the truck as well, into the back of a dump truck. So there is gonna be an increased amount of trash down there and blowing around and things of that sort. We have tried barrels before down there, and last year, and there was always, the council last year, I could remember several times, council getting emails, the barrels are filled. We go down there on Monday, on Wednesday, the barrels are filled, the barrels are filled, the barrels are filled, and it was a constant battle to keep those barrels empty, and they had several barrels down there at the time. I'm just bringing it forward as a consideration for the council. When you talk, I want to give you all the facts. Whatever you wanted us to do, we're going to do. And the other thing is, we can get extend the parking lot fence all the way up to the road. I can just tell you that probably won't happen until the fall.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't going to be done in the next week or so. It's probably going to be done in the September, October timeframe like the last one was. But we can do it, and we will get it done if the council wants to see it. I just don't want you to think that it's going to be instant.
From the parking, all the
So,
way up to the bridge.
I don't like the idea of a fence all the way along the river, and I'm not sure how far you end up going with that. I think you have to go all the way to the bridge
Oh, yeah.
in the back of the property
I
or
totally
something.
agree.
And you put it on the upside of all the trees there so that it just, I mean, I really don't like that.
Okay.
I think I would prefer to spend that money and cost to try and put an attendant of some sort out there for, the weekends or maybe the peak periods of times when we see people there. I mean, we talk about Watson being more visible, and yet we still can't seem to find when folks are
What would the attendant do?
trashing. Just keep an eye on things and remind people that they're supposed to be carrying out their trash and not have beer there and not have parties and fires in the middle of the field and stuff like that. And I realize they're not officers, so all they can do is say, this is the rules and regulations, and if people argue with them or people push back, they back off and call the cops. And the sector patrol can go by and try to deal with what they come across. That might preclude putting barrels out if we just try to encourage and enforce the carry and carry out. But that's my thought. Peter and then Barb.
Okay. My gut instinct, I agree, Nancy, the fence, but I don't want to see a fence up. I think Matt makes a good point. I think we're going to call the DPW to repair it. They'll cut it one way or the other, where it's at night or something. I do think, and I granted, Paul, there's extra labor involved, but I think we should put the barrels back out there. I don't think the carry-out program's working. So I'm for putting barrels out. And we've talked about addressing these problems and throwing some extra funding at certain things. Well, maybe this is having the barrels and having them emptied is something we need to for Watson Park, but, you know, I think we're always at a loss of what goes on down that river. And I think as this park evolves, and like we said, that the path underneath the Chamberlain Bridge gets done, I think you have to look at landscape architecture that is not friendly or conducive to create a beach.
Correct.
And creating more visibility, cutting the brush, trimming up the trees. I keep suggesting this, and I'm told we'll put it on the list. It never gets done. And I've suggested this 3 years in a row. So, but visibility, so that you can see down there. The officers don't have to go down into the thing. They can, even if they can see it. So create visibility. So that's my lecture for the day. Thank you. But I'm supportive of the barrels and stuff.
Barrels make smaller openings on top. You don't want tires in there, just.
Well, the tires just need to be left next to it, and it creates a
Well,
problem.
and they may be, but they're gonna go down and pick this garbage up every Monday anyhow, Public Works, so I get it, you gotta pick up a big barrel, but put a small opening, and that might help stop some of the full garbage bags from your house. I don't know,
Well, we did, my wife and I did the Earth Day, and we did Watson Park 2 years ago, and there were already a lot of tires down by the river we left from years ago, and we pulled, I think that day we pulled 5 out and left them by the barrels, but there was so much trash. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those tires are, some people are down there and find them like we did and pull them out too, so.
So what can we bring this, how do we bring this to a resolution on Watson Park and the others?
Barbara?
Yeah, I'm going to just advocate for the barrels to get either. Yeah, it's work either way. It's either the people use the barrel and our folks have got to empty the barrels, but at least it's not blowing all over the park and they don't have to spend Monday morning pickup. And it's not fair to our own residents who are getting these groups together, like Sunday morning, the litter crew is going in to pick up Watson Park. Even though I've told Brendan, I said, you know, you still got a whole day to go there. But it's not fair for our residents to be putting these groups together to have to go in and clean it. And it's not fair for our employees to have to go in and pick all this trash up. If you're not going to carry it out, maybe they at least will put it in a barrel, and that's half the battle.
What about a dumpster?
That's too
I
ugly.
mean, that's an option, but that's even easier for somebody to drive up and empty their household trash.
Put their
I
weekly
mean,
trash in there.
really.
I don't know that that's a major issue, but
Did you want?
so, Matt?
My only thought on that is if you were to put an attendant there who's kind of, aside from kind of the public education piece, is picking up trash in the park, because you know, we know it's always there. But if you were to do a dumpster, you do a locked dumpster, so they can empty the stuff that they're picking up so that the barrels don't overflow.
That makes sense.
Steel lid, you know.
What's that?
What does the council want us to do? I heard a lot about an attendant, I heard about trash barrels, I heard about no to the fence.
Well, no to the fence is definitely.
Well, you heard some yes to the fence and some no to the fence, but
So I'm just, but what would the council,
I can
I
take-
hear that you want the barrels, I get that. I hear that. But I thought if we're gonna do the attendant's gonna tell the people, carry your trash, take it out of here.
yeah,
So,
but can they be there when every group leaves their spot and make sure they carry their trash out?
no, and we know that. There, you know, from dusk to dawn and, you know, is the park rules, you know, between that, so, you know, I'm just looking for what the council wants at Watson Park, so. Yes.
We need a motion of some sort to
I'm not,
move forward.
I'm not done yet with
I
Watson.
didn't know if we could go.
So what do you have to say,
Well, the
Bill?
parking piece, I mean, we've talked about the aesthetics of the park, which I do appreciate. You know, the parking and the enforcement of some of the issues that I saw last week with, you know, 4 cars parking on the sidewalk. As Councilor Rothaus alluded to, they're probably going up to Canals. They're actually parking across the street on private property where the caboose is. they're parking over there and walking across the street. And I don't know if we've,
Complain.
well, that's the other thing. I don't know if the person who owns that property is aware of that particular situation. I mean, what's the capacity, I mean, this is the one question that what's the capacity of parking at Watson Park as it stands right now? Was it 20 spaces?
No, it's more than that, 40, 45, I want to say.
Depending on your park.
Yeah, it depends on how you park, really.
Between 35 and 45 spaces,
Okay.
depending how people park. I guess and this is, I'd like to see a little bit more of a commitment that maybe the attendant does work, because now you're telling somebody that they can't park on the grass, they can't park on the sidewalk. You know, there's that piece that you gotta make that person go look for somewhere else, and God forbid that person doesn't, you know, treat that attendant nicely about it and just blows them off and does their own thing. You're capped with the number of spaces that are there at that particular location. And to me, it exacerbates the situation when that parking goes other way across the street. And it's creating, I mean, we have wanted this park to attract people to the town center. This is going back to even before I joined this council, that the concept of having Watson would be to attract people to our town center. I don't want to dismiss that, but at the same token, you know, there are issues going on there that parking is one of the more prevalent problems there, that it makes our park, that should be a very good place to visit, when people are parking on the sidewalk there, it just makes it very unsightly. When people are parking elsewhere, they're creating an imposition on the owner of Canals Plaza, or I think it's Woodbury is the name of the professional complex where the caboose is. You know, there's an impact there. I quite honestly, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't been parking on Woodbury Street. I'm really surprised that they haven't been parking on Woodbury Street, to be honest with you.
I hear what you're saying. Do you
So-
have a recommendation?
I like to come to if I'm gonna gripe about something, I gotta have a solution, and I don't have a solution, that's the whole thing. I'm kind of asking for guidance from anybody here on the council, you know, as it relates to, I don't have an idea.
Finley?
I think there is no solution. I don't believe in attendant. The fencing, you know, I just didn't care for that. I don't mind the people being out on the sandbar, even though we don't condone it. I think that we have to tighten up the parking, which won't happen till fall, and I appreciate that. In the meantime, we have to keep it clean. You know, the Shirley LeMay, and I think Tom, the guy who is her predecessor, they keep that school facility spotless. If there's graffiti on the wall, it's painted right away. And that's what I think Giuliani did as mayor of New York City. You keep it clean, no
Absolutely.
graffiti, because once there's something there, it breeds more. And so if we've got to stay on top of the cleanliness of the park, we do have to talk about it in our goals session about making it a nice park, because right now it's looking kind of sloppy all around with the lawn and everything. But that's the only thing we can do to fix the place. We have to keep it looking clean, and then just, the parking will be what it is. We have to make it so they can't park on Route 3, they can't park in the grass areas, and we have to just prevent that. And so I don't see any other solution. I don't think there is one. I think we just have to deal.
I kind of agree with you, that there isn't.
And how we handle Wasserman Park, the beach area, we have to figure that out, and I can't do that tonight now. I don't have it in me, and I think it's gonna take some sit-down conversation to come up with a response to that, because I think you do have to ask everybody when they're coming down to the beach for their identification, so we can give them their pass for the day, or whatever it might take. And I don't know, but I can't solve that right now, I'm sorry.
Retreat.
I think so, I really do, and, it's gonna take more time than we have left.
So-
Barrels in, maybe there'll be enough time to know if it makes a difference.
It sounds like there's a lot of support for barrels going back into Watson Park. I think, but I don't know if there's support for adding in attendance, at least on the weekend at Watson Park to,
I'm a no.
no?
At Watson Park, yeah, I don't think, they're gonna say, hey, make sure you pick up your garbage, but they have to be, it's what, 14
Well,
acres?
the barrels are there. We're just trying to tell them, don't leave it out there. Don't be drinking beer out there. Don't, you know. Somebody that's openly drinking beer out by the water has got to know that they're on town property and that's not allowed. The police can't see it from the street, you know, so how are these guys going to realize that they're a problem? And if they're breaking glass out there or any of those things. Lon?
Yeah, for quite a few minutes now, we've talked around every issue that anybody's raised. It boils down to this guy, to enforcement. Putting an attendant there is visible for saying, yeah, we care about the place, and yes, you know, certain things are going to happen. But I have yet to hear anybody really get serious about honest to goodness enforcement in terms of the ordinances, in terms of allowable behaviors and not. And I hope when we get to talking longer term, we look at that. Because we'll have, as you have, Bill and Finley and Peter, we'll have this discussion for the next 15 years. I won't, but we will. I could talk to you about user fees, which would help perhaps pay for enforcement, but that's for the longer term discussion. But before I fall asleep, I'd like to know what we want to do. Thank you.
Well, that's where I'm trying to drive to, and I appreciate your input there. Do we have something we can resolve or we can move forward with tonight relative to Watson Park?
Barrels for sure.
Barrels for sure.
So what's, okay.
See, I'm personally, I would go with you with a park attendant on weekends. I would. But I think we're gonna lose that.
Well, I guess if you're gonna do the attendant, and I know it's getting late.
Is your mic on?
They gotta know what they're enforcing. Oh, sorry. If you're gonna do the park attendant, they've gotta know what they're enforcing,
Yeah.
and that's all, so.
Well,
I mean, I'm not
so
totally
I-
against it, but.
I envision it being like the attendant that we have down at Wasserman.
Right.
Just making sure everybody's aware of what the rules are. Just monitoring and if they see violations, reacting to them, either by talking to the people, if they can do that on a civil basis, or calling in the backup police force, if they can't. And that's, I mean, what more can we do?
For me, was just appalled to hear Council Harry's story of picking up underwear. No, you chuckle. I
mean, there's
and
all kinds of stuff.
There's been more stuff, and it's, you know, we're the 8th largest community. We've worked really hard to create a community with a quality of life and a very good quality of life. And it troubles me that we invite people, and I'm not saying all, but there's a select few that are ruining it for this community. You know? And it just, I abhor seeing that. I abhor seeing the trash. I do. And you know, the carry in, carry out, and it's stacked right in front of the sign that says carry in, carry out. You know, I mean, you can't teach stupid. It's.
Okay, so.
I'm on with the barrels. I think that is probably a necessary step that we should take as it relates to Watson. I'm in between on the attendant, though. I don't know.
So I guess I'll reach out to staff, either Paul or Matt. Do you think that's sufficient as far as a first step to go forward? Or do we really need to do more?
Why don't we put the barrels out there? I'll try to get them out there for this weekend.
Thank you, Matt.
Good night, Matt.
I will try to get the barrels out there this weekend for Watson Park. I will try, we have barrels. We should have enough barrels because of, they're not around other places right now. So we can put those out, and I guess we can play it by ear and see how that works with the trash. See how that works with some of the other items. Like I said, Wildcat Falls is closed now, so the closest area with water is Watson Park. So we're gonna have to play that by ear and bring, you know, if we need to, do something before the July 16th meeting. We can always bring that forward as a special meeting to resolve the issues. So I believe that we'll make it work with that, what the council wants with the barrels, and we'll keep informing you of if there's problems down there with other things. At the same time, I can talk with Matt to try to come up with some kind of game plan if we do need to put some attendant down there right away, so we can move on that quickly and see if in fact there's somebody that would be willing to go down there on the weekends, that might be still looking for a position, a college kid or something of that sort. So we can look into that. And if we need to, we can pull the trigger. Eileen can pull the trigger and put somebody down there in July.
Okay, do we need a motion? Do you need any kind of action from us? Or
I
do you want
think-
to act on what you just said?
I think that you brought it from out here really down to specifics for us. I have a clear path of where the council's going. They want the barrels, and we will play it by ear.
The only one in the room with a clear idea, but that's okay.
And we'll play it by ear on the attendant, and if we feel that an attendant is needed, if Eileen might and myself feel an attendant is needed, I'm sure we'll be in touch with the council. Does that work?
Is the council okay with that?
Yeah.
That works.
All right.
Can I
think-
throw
I think we got enough hot nods, yes.
Can I throw a wrench into the engine?
No.
Okay.
You can try.
Do we have any concerns about people flocking to Veterans Park?
Flocking to Veterans Park.
Let's wait and see if it is.
Because you got Camp Sargent there and,
Unintended consequences.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, unintended consequences.
And we'll deal with it.
Camp Sargent is private.
I understand that.
If they flock to Veterans Park, that has just
There's
that.
no real beach there.
There's
It's
no
just
real
the
beach. It's-
Boat access
They have
ramp.
a
Right.
swing.
And they're gonna
They
get
have a
hit.
swing?
Have a swing.
Who put the swing up?
Kids did. If that's not this generation, all kids do it.
Okay, that's first I heard that there's a swing down at
I
Veterans
didn't know there
Park.
was a
I didn't
swing
know there
down
was a
there.
swing there. But there's just the boat access in Veterans Park there. There is that gentleman who actually has the house there, that if it starts becoming a problem, I'm sure he will.
He'll
be
let us
calling-
know.
He'll let
Yes.
us know and let the police know. And it's late, so I should refrain from saying it that way, but he will
appreciate him
definitely
doing
let
that,
us
yeah.
know with that. And we'll just play the two waterways that we have now, Wasserman and Watson, and if we think we need more help at either place, we'll definitely let the council know right away, and we'll see how it works this weekend. Will be a great test.
Okay. Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Matt, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Not from the agenda again.
No, you're not, but we
You
may,
want the agenda.
we may table the rest of the agenda.
I would like to move to table the rest of the minutes. Oh, yeah. Do you have
The-
to do that?
The third quarter financial update?
It's already 2 months behind, so.
Okay.
I can give you the fourth quarter at the
Fourth
same
quarter
time.
will come up next meeting, so
I can make this real quick on the
just
third
summarize
quarter.
for us, would you,
Real-
please?
We have, right now, this is through March 31st. As of March 31st, the town was in great financial shape, both in appropriation and revenue. This is before, most of this accounts hit before COVID. The only one that I'm really concerned about, as I said in my memo, is the interest income. Interest income, because of COVID, the rates fell off the face of the earth, and we're back to getting 20 basis points or 0.2% on our money. So I'm projecting about $150,000 shortfall there. However, we do have other revenues that we weren't anticipating, such as the $600,000, such as the extra money for insurance
registrations.
rebates, things of that sort that are in there. But building permits are right on. Automobile registrations, believe it or not, through the month of March and May, because I looked at May now, they are spot on from last year. So I believe we will hit our goal in both of those areas. And like I said, there are appropriations. We do have some appropriations because we do have some savings through personnel and things of that sort that we'll be looking at now that we had a plan for if the budget didn't pass, but knock on wood, the budget did pass, so we're good. Wrap it up. Appropriations, we have sufficient appropriations, and I believe we'll be hitting our revenue numbers, so we'll be looking good for end of fiscal year as well.
Thank you, Paul.
Nicely done.
Any questions for Paul? No. Sorry. I was being funny. How did I lose the last of the pages here? That's funny. So now we're talking about.
Minutes.
Minutes. Do we want to approve the minutes or table them?
Move to table.
Second.
Motion to table, made by Bill and seconded by Nancy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 700. Comments from the press? Comments from the public? Comments from the council? Give me just a second, okay? I do want to remind everybody that we need to have an election of officers in the next meeting, as well as be thinking about a retreat this year. Everything's been delayed due to COVID and stuff like that, but we need to be thinking about location and what we need to talk about. Most importantly, what the agenda might be. So if you have special things you're concerned about, start getting those together and get them into town staff so that they can put together booklets and plan for it as well. Last time I talked to Eileen, she was looking forward to being able to have a retreat. So I think we should try to move forward with it as much as possible.
Should we
And-
send any vacation date plans to you so that you know when you're deliberating dates for the
Sure.
retreat?
Yeah, somebody's going to take a vacation?
Yeah, I am.
Not me. Yes, Barb?
Just a thought, when we're planning for the date, maybe do it in the same week that we have a council meeting.
You need to turn your mic on, sorry.
I was saying that perhaps when we're choosing a date, do it the same week that we have a council meeting, because most of us will probably be in town that week.
I won't be.
I already sent you an email about it.
Did you? Oh, okay. I didn't pay attention to the date.
Is there a day better than other days? Is a Monday better than a Friday? Is a Monday better than a Friday? Is a Tuesday better than a Thursday? Is there any day of the week that you want us to try to not
It's
look
all
at?
relative.
No, not for me.
Okay,
Not
great.
anymore.
So, and we'll be looking at probably beginning of August-ish. End of
Yep.
July, beginning of August.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can get the books together.
Something together. Okay.
The big-
It was something else I wanted to say. I guess it wasn't important. Now your motion's in order.
Actually,
What, did you want to, does anybody else want to say
I
something?
wanted to say something.
Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the town of Merrimack for returning me to the council for another 3 years. I am really honored and privileged by the vote that occurred on Tuesday. It absolutely is not lost on me, and I am really excited about where we are right now, what this council has done, what this community has done, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to accomplish over the next 3 years, and I'm very happy to be a part of the process. And to my colleagues here, I'm very happy to be sitting here with you again, and I do mean that sincerely. I'm very happy that.
And it's good to see you here, too.
Thank you. It's nice to be seen. I appreciate that. And I do want to congratulate Councilor Rothaus for getting 200 additional bullet votes that put him on top of the election. So, and I'm happy that Finley got elected as well, so congratulations to Finley as well. But lastly, thanks to my wife, Michelle, and my daughter, Jade, because they accept the fact that their father and husband is, out of the house every other Thursday night. So I'm very grateful to them for supporting this, because this is what winds me up every day, being a town councilor and being a part of building something positive in our community and addressing challenges and fixing them. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Excuse me.
You're very welcome.
Anybody else? Finley?
I have to, everything that Billy said, except I think my wife is happy that I'm out of the house sometimes. So, no, I'm thrilled to be back with my family, away from my family, as I always say. I'm happy to be here and enjoy it and appreciate it.
And that, of course, reminded me that was also what that was the thing I forgot, to just thank the town of Merrimack for the support on all our warrant articles, for our union contracts, and their staff. We all appreciate the work that went in. I hope everybody was satisfied with the election, the way it went off, and realizes that we tried our level best to make it as safe as possible, and hope that it worked out for everybody.
Absolutely. Agreed.
And continue to socially distance and monitor what you're doing and be responsible, because COVID hasn't gone away. It may be slacking off in New Hampshire. Hopefully it is continuing to slack off, but it's not slacking off all across the country, and so there's still concern. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Now you can go to one.
Lon? Motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
Seconded by Bill. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposing? Abstaining? We are adjourned. Thank you very much. 7:00.
Merrimack TV is committed to our community. From gavel-to-gavel coverage of town and school board meetings to updates on town services and projects, we aim to keep you connected.
Good morning, I'm Kyle Fox, Public Works Director for the town of Merrimack.
Hi, I'm Diane Trippett. I'm the town clerk tax collector for the town of Merrimack.
I'm Captain Matt Tarleton with the Merrimack, New Hampshire Police Department.
And keep the public informed of every motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
And many moments, so you can be confident that we're here for you. Thanks for watching. Stay connected. Follow Merrimack TV on Facebook.